MCC, we agree that we are going to have a meeting where we'll be having a program of actioning whatever decision will be taken in that meeting. But the executive mayor already indicated that the action must be taken, because we don't want this matter that happened at Iobe Primary School to go and happen in other schools.
The authorities in Pretoria have urged commuters that use the City of Tshwane buses to make alternative travel arrangements. This is because a group of bus operators has embarked on a protest which has disrupted operations. City of Tshwane spokesperson Lindela Mashigo says the protesting group blocked the gates to the city's bus depot yesterday after they were unofficially informed of a disciplinary committee's verdict against them. He says the 33 bus operators are in the process of being served with letters of dismissal for participating in an unprotected strike in May this year. Mashigo says they appeared before a disciplinary hearing last month.
The protesting group is allegedly intimidating some of their co-workers who are willing to honor their afternoon shifts. The city apologizes profusely to the bus commuters who will be adversely affected by the disruption and advises them to make alternative travel arrangements. The city apologizes to its loyal customers for this service interruption. Further developments will be communicated in due course.
In news further afield, the Israeli military says it's preparing to deploy a rescue mission to the Netherlands. This after violence broke out following a Europa League match between Maccabi Tel Aviv and Ajax Amsterdam. Israel says its soccer team supporters were attacked in a very violent incident as they left the ground. 10 people are reported to have been wounded. Dutch authorities have not yet commented. The BBC's Joe Inwood reports.
Videos on social media show people being beaten unconscious. One appears to show a man in a canal being told to say "Free Palestine." Israel's far-right National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir said fans had been met with unimaginable cruelty just because of their Jewishness and Israeliness. The government in Jerusalem announced 2 planes would be sent for what it called a rescue mission. But there are also multiple videos showing a crowd tearing down a Palestinian flag from a street in central Amsterdam, with anti-Palestinian chants audible in the background.
Recapping the top story, Basic Education Minister Siviwe Gwarube says it's all systems go with the implementation of the Basic Education Laws Amendment Act, commonly known as the Bella Act. I am Ondalambana for SAFM News, headlines at 3:30.
And coming up in your sports this hour, Proteas target winning start against India. Uganda announces squad for AFCON qualifiers, and Springbok Women's Eye HSBC 7 Series. More details at 3:30.
Imagine the endless possibilities with Powerball and Powerball Plus at 131 million rand in jackpots this Friday. You heard right. Play Powerball for an estimated 46 million rand jackpot and Powerball Plus for the life-changing 85 million rand guaranteed jackpot today. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old and play responsibly. E2 is a proud operator of the National Lottery.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Welcome to the show. This is the National Pulse. So up front, let's have the conversation that moves us. You and I, and just about everybody in our country, and of course everybody around the world. It's a time of It's a day today where there's multiple focuses. A few days ago you'd think the biggest issue would start and end with the U.S. election. That's sort of moved away. There's a new leader in Botswana who's now been inaugurated as the president, so that's significant. We'll touch on that. Eskom, well, they are threatening to cut off the supply to City Power because of non-payment. Okay, that's not your business unless, of course, City Power, you're their client. That means you could be affected as well in terms of these interrupted cut-offs. We'll talk about that. One of the biggest issues has got to be the issue of the food poisoning in schools. And now the Gauteng Education Department in particular, well, they've put a stop to all these tuck shops around schools to be selling anything immediately. It has got health implications. It definitely has financial implications as well for those that sell too. So financial, economic, socio-economic implications too, right? Then what about, well, that's the other thing we'll talk about. Then, of course, we need to be talking about what we do after 5 o'clock, right? And remember, every Friday we have a feature called the Fireside Chat, and I have a guest who will be talking to us for an hour as part of the Fireside Chat, who is a leader. He's the chairperson of one of the leading SOEs in the country. Maybe you can work that out. Looking forward to that conversation. So all those things and more. And by the way, while we're talking about that, here's a quick one to you. Right? You need to put down in terms of, there's a quick one to you in terms of, we know there's the issue around food poisoning. We also know there's the issue of the schools being shut down. We're also going to talk to Free State, by the way, on the same issue. What is, in your understanding of what has happened regarding food poisoning at spaza shops and around schools, what's your one word to describe what you feel about it? Just your one word. What do you feel about it? You can add more when you call in, and to do that, it's 086 000 2032. Then you have an option to WhatsApp. It's text or voice note form, 0614 104 107. 0614 104 107. And for those who are tweeting, just tag us, SAFM Radio. Add your comments too, and add your one word on Twitter, which is great. And then tag me, Ashraf Garda. Do the same on the Facebook page as well. Now, let's get to what we spoke about earlier in terms of some of the most significant happenings in the world, right? And the one is happened next door, our neighbors in Botswana. There's regime change there. There's leadership change. Sophie Mokoena, the SABC International News editor, is in Gaborone. The privilege to obviously cover that change live today. So, Sophie, good chatting to you, and you certainly connected to the National Pulse.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much, Ashraf.
Thank you. Right, so tell us what has happened today. I've been following some of the social media posts, yours as well, from early morning. Maybe just first things first for those who don't quite understand it. There's been some significant changes in terms of the leadership. What has happened a few days ago, and then you'll tell us about today.
Well, of course, it was elections and the umbrella for democratic change. Three parties working together were able to get enough support, and their candidate was Duma Boko, and they were able to get the needed threshold to form a government, and therefore he was sworn in. And then secondly, he started working on Monday, but there was a view that Botswana would want to witness this important change in the life of the nation. As you know, that it is after 58 years we have a new party that is going to lead this country. And therefore today it was that official ceremony of getting Duma Boko to make a commitment in front of Botswana.
Okay, and of course he made some significant commitments, right? So maybe I'll leave you to highlight maybe 3 or 4 significant points that he raised that you'd like to share.
I think the speech was very personal. It was about a motivation rather than talking about the vision and the mission and what he hopes to achieve, but generally saying, I am your servant, I will do what is best for Botswana and Botswana. That was the message, very short. And also, this is Duma Boko, a countryside boy, like any other child, an African child, who worked hard. Here I am. You too can do it.
How was that received? I mean, there's obviously a live audience, and there's others who may be watching it on TV or listening on radio.
I think people we are used to, when leaders, after being sworn in, long statements and about I'll do this and that, almost like a manifesto again. It was personal interaction with Botswana. It was like he's talking to each and everyone, looking at him, his home, there's that warmth and, peace and the fact that after Masisi, let's work together, no divisions, we are one nation.
And I suppose that's an important point too, especially when you have someone replacing not just a person, but an entire system of governance for many, many decades, right? You also want to bring in, and I know the victory was overwhelming, but you also want to bring in everybody on side, considering that even his win owes itself to an umbrella organization of many organizations.
Yes, when you look at who attended, you had former President Festus Mogae, you had Ian Khama, and then Mokgweetsi Masisi. So when you look at this, it's almost like a dynasty of BDP, even though Khama took a different turn later when the relations got hectic between him and Masisi and him baking a new party. But you are correct. It really amplified the fact that you are coming in, you have to undo a very, very complex cobweb sometimes of corruption and maladministration, as we saw in the dying days of the BDP. But also one thing that was quite telling, Emmerson Mnangagwa, the president of Zimbabwe, who is the current chair of SADC, was there. And I think the tension between Botswana and Zimbabwe is palpable because he was booed all the way. You mentioned his name, he just got booed. The issue here is because of the Zimbabweans who are in Botswana and people feeling the pinch fighting for resources. But secondly, the way he handled this transition with Mozambique, he was quick to congratulate Chopo because he's from Frelimo, even before the Electoral Commission could announce the results. And look where we are now with Mozambique. Here, he didn't do that. And secondly, remember SADC headquarters are here. So that, yes, by last night, they didn't even know whether he's coming to be here as a SADC chair. So that was palpable. And of course, your Julius Malema, it was like he's in South Africa. I mean, you mentioned his name, the crowd just go wild. Because even when we arrive here, people are like, is Malema coming? Is Malema coming? Even the security and the soldiers. And we are like, hey, you are the security.
How do you explain that? I mean, in South Africa, and yesterday we spoke to you about Malema, but also we also spoke to Dali Mpofu. So in South Africa, his party has lost a bit of its luster. Yet, how do you explain the fact that he is so admired by countries from the SADC region?
Ashraf, I travel on the continent, whether you like it or not. Thabo Mbeki, a Pan-Africanist, Julius Malema, this rabble-rouser. I'm talking about the South Africans, where when you travel on the continent, people will talk about them. I don't want to talk about Mandela, I mean, really worldwide. And with Malema, it's complex. It's not that easy. Even you'd recall during the funeral of Castro, Fidel Castro,
yes,
in Cuba.
Mm-hmm.
He was there and he slept at the hotel. It's a state hotel. And I remember, I won't mention names, some people were not even happy that the Cuban government has accommodated Mbuyiseni Ndlozi, Malema. I think he was with Floyd also, at the hotel. And on our way back, some people were even saying this thing, it's not that easy. Even the Chinese sometimes do ask about him. So it's that kind of a situation where you have a South African, his character, and people relate to him. Those who love him so very much. Those who hate him with passion. But one thing, undermine Malema at your own peril.
Okay, so just to move on then, I mean, you mentioned a lot of the speech from the president was very personal, but I mean, he must have said something about how he positions Botswana within the African continent. What did he say about that?
Botswana will be a friend to all her neighbors. Botswana will do business with all her neighbors. And Botswana will play a role at the international multilateral level. it was short. But fortunately, tomorrow I'll be speaking to him, so we will be able to really unpack all these issues in detail. Also, his understanding of the current global challenges and affairs like Middle East, Ukraine, and trade and investment, and the tension in terms of products of South Africa being blocked. You can't send a certain product here. So we will really look at serious issues now.
Okay.
Tomorrow.
Well, I tell you what, when you finally flight it, just certainly tag me and SFM Radio at the National Pulse. I'll definitely make sure it gets shared. We need to do that. Just the last thing, I noted something that he said around undocumented foreign nationals living in Botswana, and he wants to create something rather unique around that. Do you remember what he said?
No, he didn't touch on that. I don't know where they got it, but tomorrow I am going to ask him about that, because this frosty relationship or the response from Botswana at the venue in relation to Zimbabwe, it has to do with the issue of migration. The issue of migration is a problem globally. You saw what happened in America and the elections. It's happening in Europe. It's happening in South Africa. And people are losing elections because of the issue of migration.
And maybe winning elections, depending on which side of the fence you sit on, right? Sophie Makwena, thank you for your time. Much appreciated. Looking forward to watching your conversation with the president, the inaugurated now president of Botswana, Advocate Duma Boko, or President Duma Boko, because he's got a different ring to it. Thank you for your time, as always, Sophie. Right, we have more to come, including the issue about Gauteng and Gauteng schools and poisonous food and the tuck shops being shut. And before we get to that, what is your one word, just one word, that you would use to describe your understanding of the food poisoning at tuck shops and spaza shops around the country? Just give me one word that you can add an explanation after that. This is the National Pulse.
RB Leipzig believe every football moment counts, and they want nothing but a win. Meanwhile, Borussia Mönchengladbach target 3 points as they embark on a journey to escape from the bottom half. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Catch the nail-biting encounter between RB Leipzig and Borussia Mönchengladbach on Saturday, 9 November at 7:30 p.m. Live everywhere for everyone. Always on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Real savings, real benefits. Here's what real clients say about OUTsurance.
My name is Adam. I'm 71 years of age and I live in Douglasdale. I'm paying 554 Rand a month for my 2022 Nissan Magnite.
Want a car insurance premium that'll blow your mind? SMS out to 30754 now for a quote. It's quick, it's easy, and it could save you hundreds of rands every month. Here's Amy.
To anyone who has not reached out to OUTsurance, what are you doing? Reach out today.
Blow your mind, not your paycheck. SMS out to 30754 and see for yourself why OUTsurance was voted Best Car Insurer 2023 by the Star and Pretoria newsreaders. Here's Yusuf.
It just shows that OUTsurance is top of the tops when it comes to insurers.
SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. OUTsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's, and limits apply. Premiums are risk profile dependent and reviewed annually. Client comments do not constitute financial advice.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
All right, what's your one word regarding the issues, I would say, a food poisoning crisis now in the country? Maybe some provinces more than others. What's your one word that you can use to describe what you feel about it? WhatsApp, text, voice note 0614 104 107. Later on, I'll take your calls 086 000 2032. Right, talking about just that, let's talk about this in the province of Gauteng. Now, the Gauteng Department of Education has instructed all schools to suspend the sale of food within and around school premises until further notice. You got that? All schools within and around school premises until further notice. This seems to be a drastic step. Is it drastic, or is it the practical solution to the underlying issue of food poisoning in many townships around the country. Steve Mabona with me, the spokesperson for the Department of Education in Gauteng. Steve, hi. Thanks for connecting to us on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, and to all our listeners.
Thank you. Help us understand. So we understand that, schools, tuck shops and all that around the school area and precincts will all be shut in the entire province of Gauteng. That does seem a bit drastic, isn't it?
Well, it's drastic when you consider that we've been asked a simple question to say, you see these incidences are increasing. What is it that you are doing as a department? So the question will be, if we intervene, some of these decisions will be seen as draconian, but it's preventative, as it were, because you can see that these incidences are increasing. So that's how we'll explain it. But we'll say, because it's a temporary measure, it's not permanent, we will then call upon parents to, work with us and be patient. We will be conducting some, more interaction with all our schools in the form of making sure that there's more compliance. Like, for instance, if we said tuck shop must be closed, when we go back to the schools, we're going to say, here's a checklist. If you want to open, we need to tick all these boxes and make sure that we are all fine. So therefore, just so that we're clear about it, what is the purpose of actually shutting down these tuck shops at schools? It's preventative more than anything. We want compliance. We want not to be found wanting, because not only tuck shops, but we said all food sales. It will be like your vendors, whether they are in the precinct of a school or they are inside. Because in some schools, they've allowed the vendors to be inside the school for a certain period, and then they will release them. So we are keeping all that. We are suspending all that to say we will come back. Let's monitor. Let's make sure that we give all other authorities an opportunity to do their work. Because remember, the executives in Gauteng agreed that municipalities, all agencies that are dealing with food management, we need to work together and make sure that we do a lot. If some spaza shops, food that does not need to be on the shelves, we need to work together and make sure that we take that off and all that. And we will visit wholesalers, work with the small businesses. So it's a multi-pronged process that the Gauteng government has decided to work on, and it will then give us an opportunity to deal with this problem.
Okay, I understand you said it's being proactive, so being preventative, which I think is a good thing, but could we also say that it's reached the stage because your fear is that it's now going to spiral out of control if left unchecked?
Definitely, we are very much concerned, because remember, we have deaths which are probably aligned to some of these incidences, but we are still waiting for confirmation from the medical practitioners in some instances. But we did receive confirmation on the Naledi learners that died. The others will need to be confirmation. But we have these incidences that are happening. Now it's an everyday thing that is happening. So that's why we felt that let's take this decision. We know some schools have been coming to us to say that it seems like we taking a blanket approach, which is quite harsh to them. But we have to explain to them to say it's an interim measure, which is not permanent. And if we all work together and cooperate and make sure that we address this, and probably the situation will go back to normal.
Okay, when you say interim, give us an expectation. Is it 1 day, 1 week, 1 month? How long?
No, we don't have that now. We should be in a position we'll be working very closely with all our stakeholders, especially the schools and the SGBs, because SGBs need to be given information so that they know how they're going to be, operating. I mean, the SGBs associations have been in constant liaison with us. We've been interacting with them since this morning, because this memo was issued yesterday. So we are clarifying things, and we should be in a position in the week or so to pave the way forward to say, now this is how we are moving.
Okay, I mean, here's a comment from Robbie asking a similar thing I would have asked to say, who is going to enforce the shutdown?
The schools. Remember, we interacted with all the schools, and we are hopeful that the HGBs will also assist us because they are responsible for governance in the school. So our officials will then be monitoring. We do sporadic checks, and we think that schools will assist us to monitor this very closely. Because we said schools must also have their own circulars just to explain to parents on what is it that we are saying, so that we work together. Pack the food for children. Don't give them money. We will then communicate on when things are back to normal, so that we.
Okay. The flip side of that is there would be many vendors, who either work within the school or outside, whose livelihoods completely depend on being open, and even being closed for a week would be catastrophic. Have you thought about that?
No, we gave that a thought, but to answer to your question on the department, you can see that you have a problem, there's a challenge. What are you doing? It boils down back to the parents and those that would have been, targeting this market to sell. Will you be happy to see your market is dwindling because one way or the other, your fellow partners or your fellow colleagues are being accused of selling food that at the ultimate end, as a result, children are dying because of? Will you be happy for that? Will you be happy, if a newspaper printing 12 innocent souls' faces and saying they died because of vendors?
Okay, I think it's a point well made. Just the last thing you said, there'll be a shutdown in terms of the schools. Then you'll check only those who are registered to do that, to be able to sell at schools or outside can do so. Just very quick onto news time already. How many of how many vendors are there in total, and how many of them are currently registered?
No, we don't have that number offhand.
Okay, let's leave it at that. We'll certainly have that number, I'm sure, sometime soon. Steve Mabona, the spokesperson for the Department of Education in Gauteng. Appreciate your time. Let's get the news headlines now. It's 3:30 years on Della Imbana.
Thank you, Ashraf. News headlines. The DA in Parliament has described the announcement for the implementation of the Bella Act as an upsetting undertaking. Johannesburg Water will start implementing water reduction between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. starting next week. This is to alleviate intermittent water pressure and outages experienced in the metro. And businesses operating in Komatipoort near the Lebombo border post with Mozambique are bearing the brunt of the ongoing post-election protests in that country. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the Tshwane bus service operations remain interrupted due to industrial action. Commuters are requested to make alternative travel arrangements. Some Breya bus feeder services throughout Soweto remain disrupted, so please check before travel. And the N1 southbound in Midrand has a crash reported near Allendale Road. In KZN, the N2 southbound is closed at Joyner Road. That's due to structural damage at the bridge, so expect diversions and delays. The M4 southbound is queuing at Blue Lagoon, and heavy traffic reported through the Prospection area. That's due to traffic being diverted from the N2 southbound closure. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound has a crash reported before Plattegrove Road. All lanes are open. The N1 inbound has a stationary truck reported on the link to the N7 North. The M5 northbound is slow moving towards the N1 Kuburg interchange. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Right, Tumi, I know it's a busy sporting weekend, starting with what the cricket is playing today. What's your big story now?
That is the big story. A very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. Well, the Proteas are in Durban, all set for their T20 series against world champions India. Now, South Africa's first match of that series is a sold-out affair at the Kingsmet Stadium today. And Proteas captain Aiden Markram says that it's very important to kick off the series with a win. The game gets underway from 5 p.m. Then in football, Uganda have picked a 27-man squad for the Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers next week. The team has 2 uncapped players for the matches against South Africa and Congo. The Cranes are currently top of Group K and need only a draw to book a ticket to Morocco. Meanwhile, Mamelodi Sundowns coach Manqoba Mngqithi says that Marumo Gallants pose a huge threat in the Carling knockout semi-final in Bloemfontein on Sunday. The Downs mentor says that although their congested schedule meant that there's little time on the training ground, Gallants are definitely an open book. Here he is just discussing Dan Malisela's team.
Dan has always been that coach that plays very good football. A lot of short passes, but of late he's also developed a culture of some long balls. The goal that was scored by Shire against Stellenbosch is an evidence to that. But now he also looks for the diagonal dodges, he looks for the balls behind the defense. It's a very good team with a lot of very interesting players. Lulu on the right, very quick dribbler that causes a lot of problems. They still have Mhango who comes in whenever they need him. Their midfield is very industrious with Manaka, with Olam Lambo, with a boy that I think not many people know, that I regard very highly, Sitole. I think he's a very, very good football player. Not many people talk about him, but I really think he's one of those players that are overlooked. And I like Maboja at left back. I think he's always been
Elsewhere, La Liga leaders Barcelona have been in sensational goal-scoring form this season and visit Real Sociedad on Sunday in the La Liga high on confidence. The Catalans have netted 55 times in 16 matches across all competitions and have scored 3 times or more in each of their last 7 outings, so they will definitely be looking to continue with that form. In rugby, Springbok women's sevens player captain Mathurin Simmers says that she's focused on helping the team to qualify for the HSBC 7 Series again. Skimmers is the country's most decorated female sevens player with 21 World Series tournaments, 3 Rugby World Cup sevens and 6 Rugby Africa Women's Sevens tournaments, amongst others. Yet tomorrow at the University of Ghana Rugby Stadium in Accra, the 36-year-old will be as eager and as determined as 20-year-old Lee Fortuin, who's one of the 2 uncapped players in the squad alongside Nompumelelo Mate. Then in motorsport, the MotoGP finale has been switched from Valencia to Barcelona because of the devastating floods in Spain. The last round of the series was scheduled for the Circuit Ricardo Tormo in Valencia, but the venue has been impacted by the floods caused by the rain. More than 200 people have been confirmed dead following the floods, with the number expected to rise. The original date of the 15th to the 17th of November will definitely remain. With that said, it's a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour.
Okay, perfect. And of course, nice to have a busy weekend. So it's the cricketers today, but of course tomorrow there's also the Springboks. So lots more Tumi and I will certainly chat about.
There's never a dull moment when South Africa share the cricket field with India. Africa takes on Asia at the battleground of Kingsmead in Durban. What is summer without cricket? Catch the thrilling first T20 international action between South Africa and India on Friday, 8 November at 4:30 p.m. live on SABC3 and 5 p.m. on Radio 2000 with reports on various SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
X at SFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Okay, what's your one word to describe the food poisoning crisis in South Africa that's killed so many people? Children mainly, right? What's your one word? You can WhatsApp us right away, 0614 104 107, or post it on social media as well. Right, let's get your thoughts. Ngonde, you've got your one word from Cape Town. Hi.
Ashraf.
Yep.
One word.
Yep.
Calamitas. If you like, precipice. If you like, abyss. Pick your choice.
So wait, you said calamitous, if I heard that correctly? That line's not very clear, yeah?
Yeah, calamitas.
Yes.
Or abyss or precipice. Your choice.
I would go with the first one. I think that's really what it is. It's a calamity. Absolutely, it is. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for that. Anything else you want to add to that?
Actually, I was going to call you about this election, of America.
Yeah.
If you recall, in 2009, I called you. It was January 2009 when Obama won. I said I was shocked. I'm not sure if you recall.
I must try and now remember. 2009. Oh, my goodness, man.
You were running the show.
Wow.
I called you. I said, I'm shocked. A black person, president, So I didn't call because obviously Kamala Harris lost to Donald Trump. The narcissist with narcissism tendency of Grania. Anyway, Ashraf,
all right.
Enjoy your day.
Good talking to you. At that time, when you called, I mean, not just was I running the show, then obviously Obama was running the show as well. But as you said, Kamala Harris not running the show, not as you had hoped it's going to happen. But thanks for engaging on there. Let's hope we'll chat sometime soon as well. Right, further comments on some of the other big issues, and this links to the conversation we had about people or children dying, right?
Afternoon, Ashraf. It's Yandisa Pongo in Vereeniging. Ashraf, in this continent, in Africa, it's only South Africa where you will get children dying with poison food, and then the president will keep quiet as if there's nothing happened. But we know our president. Our president, the only thing he's care about is his money. He don't care about the people, this guy.
But how do you know he doesn't care?
Care about
but how do you know he doesn't care?
How can you keep quiet while people are dying, children are dying, each and every day are dying, but you keep quiet as a president?
Well, okay, I think it's an interesting point that you keep quiet. Has he said anything? Doesn't mean he doesn't care, but has he said anything? I think it is a good point to maybe consider. Here's another one.
Good afternoon, Ashraf and SAFM listeners. You know what, Ashraf, for ANC to go in the streets and protest against themselves, because I believe they are in the coalition there in Tshwane, but they still have a nerve to go on the street and protest while people are still struggling. People do not have water. People are struggling with the services, but they're still having the guts to go on the road and protest. What are they protesting? Because they are in the government. These ANC people are, I'm not sure. Even though we are trying to defend them, you can't even defend these people. Thanks.
Interesting, your point. I must tell you, myself and Temba, my producer, we had a chat about just that earlier on today to say, in fact, the ANC are protesting against the ANC. South Africa is alive with possibilities.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, so we've touched on the issue of food poisoning in the Gauteng region, and we now know they've taken the step of actually shutting down these school tuck shops and those on the periphery of the precinct with immediate effect. How long that's going to be, I don't know, right? But there's a development in other provinces too now. The Free State MEC for Finance, Economic Development and Tourism says that counterfeit goods poses dangers to people's lives, and it deprives the government of crucial revenue that could have been invested in public services. These remarks were made in the context again of allegations from the public regarding the sale of expired and counterfeit foods, which are harmful, as you know, naturally to the health of school learners and the public. So Ketso Makume, the Free State MEC for Finance, Economic Development and Tourism, thanks for connecting to the National Pulse.
Afternoon, Asfa, and afternoon to your listeners.
Thank you. So, do you have this problem as well in the Free State? I mean, we're speaking about Gauteng earlier. Is it also widespread or a cause for concern where not just our goods may be counterfeit, but more importantly for now, that they are harmful to people consuming it and therefore people could be losing their lives or they are losing their lives?
Yes, indeed. From yesterday, we got allegations from the school in Welkom children were taken for observations. We are still awaiting the results. There were also allegations in the areas of Bloemfontein and the areas of Marquardt. So it is a very concern for us to have such incidents. So we are working on the plan together with the Department of Education, because more of the people who were affected yesterday in the Free State were school learners and school learners from the primary schools in the main. So we are very much concerned. So we really condemn the selling of counterfeit and expired goods to the people, but importantly and particularly to the children. So we really, really want to condemn that. But at the very same time, Asrat, we're also condemning the looting of the shops and the looting of the property. Because what was really puzzling for me, it is when people also were taking the goods that we are claiming that they could have been either poisoned or there could have been other substances that we are not supposed to consume. But people are taking this thing to their homes. I'm very worried that the number may also increase if indeed those shops were also affected by illicit products and illicit goods.
How do we handle this issue? When I say handle, how do we get a lid on this thing permanently? What needs to be done?
Quite frankly, everyone needs to get up and do his or her own responsibilities. I can tell you a number of departments in government, they need to work together and coordinate our work and really fight this thing. For instance, we in the Department of Economic Development, our primary responsibility is to visit the shops regularly and ensure that the foods in the shops are not expired and it's not illicit foods. We've created an app in the Free State which also traces the issue of the barcode system. So we are able just to detect that your products are not really barcoded by the SABS and they are not even coded, some of them. That's the first one. But the second thing, the police need to make arrests, because it means this food have been entered into the shop without some regulations and licenses. But the other problem is the municipalities. Most of the shops, it's areas where it's residential area. And you'll find that these residential areas are not being rezoned for business purposes. The other people that need to be involved is the health inspectors. Health inspectors also need to accompany us. So everyone, but community members in the main, why are we giving our houses, particularly people who are giving out RDP houses to business people without even inspecting as to what is it that is going to be sold? Some people will apply for saloon, but immediately they sell drugs and they sell alcohol. But the business certification will tell you that this is supposed to be a saloon. So these are some of the things that our communities, members in the departments, various sections, including the media, we need to work smart and ensure that we really condemn this and expose the wrongdoers and really jail them for what they are doing.
Now, we're not very clear exactly where, to use the word, the food chain of where the problem really is. Is it the tuck shop owner? Is it the man who's got a shop? Is it the supplier, the much bigger supplier from somewhere else? It could be something else. The big question for now is like, how did it get to this? Meaning with regard to regulation, whether it's Free State or Gauteng or in Mpumalanga, wherever it is, how is it that so many of these traders are effectively undocumented in terms of trade, especially when it comes to dealing in food, so that we're having the position that we're having now?
The first weakness is what we're supposed to do, the implementation of our Immigration Act. It's very clear. No one will just own a shop. You can't come to an area, any country. You can't come as a tourist and then tomorrow you have the right to own the shops. You have the right to run businesses. You can't come because of asylum application and then tomorrow you are running. So we need really to implement the Act. The Act is very clear. You can't have the licensing or your shop can be regulated because you don't have certain documents. Documents such as, for instance, the ID document, the identity document, and the visa business certificate, which allow people to invest in our country.
Okay, but that also makes the assumption that all people who are poisoned ultimately can be linked to undocumented foreign nationals. What I'm saying, it may and it may not be the case, because we don't actually truly understand the food chain or the value chain, where it comes from and how it finally lands up down to the last person who consumes it.
Okay, I was coming to that. I was just raising the one part of it. The second part is the value chain. You really need, we are in the Free State, we are not only targeting tech shops as part of the inspections. I can tell you, since I was appointed as the MEC, we have also targeted some of the wholesale and the warehouses that have been pointed by community members that this warehouse and these wholesalers are the ones that are actually producing these things. So everyone gets involved, because these people who are also buying Ashraf, we can't also excuse them, because they know where they're supposed to buy. But they buy deliberately, because they will tell you that some of the counterfeit or illicit products becomes cheaper in the market because they are counterfeits. So that is why they actually end up running to them. So we don't need to close down on the warehouses, but at the very same time, we also need to close down on the tech shops that are using those things.
And the flip side of that, I mean, the consumers will buy from these spaza shops and others because they are cheaper, because there's also a sense that the more established stores are just not just a bit more expensive, but far more expensive. Hasn't that been going on for far too long as well either? You know, and then means because they're that much more expensive, they've opened up a market and allowed people to ensure that spaza shops flourish.
Exactly, and this is where I've said to you, community members must also be involved in the number of things. For instance, we need to have a very massive education to make our people to understand that some of the things that are not market related, they are also not given the market price. They might have some dangers. But because of the high rate of poverty and high rate of unemployment, our people end up being victims. That one, you understand it within that economic context. But the truth of the matter is that these people produce these things deliberately so that they undermine the economy of this country.
Okay, let's leave it at that. I'm sure, I hope you put a lid on it. I really, really do. And that the entire nation can do the same thing as well. Ketso Makume, the Free State MEC for Finance, Economic Development and Tourism. Thanks for your time. But the broader question to all of us, first of all, I asked you one word that you would use to describe what you see as an issue about poisoning and food poisoning in township schools around those areas, at spaza shops. Just your one word to describe it. But very importantly, right, what do you think would be the solution? What is the win-win solution to all of this? It can't just be close down the tuck shops for a week or 2 or 3 weeks while we sort out other problems. It can't be just a state of emergency, as I think Lebogang Maile said the other day when I chatted to him. There must be something lasting. And central to all of that, you have to also ask yourself, again, how did we get ourselves into a position, especially when it comes to foods, that those who sell the foods are essentially, I wouldn't say undocumented, but they're unregistered to sell something that we all consume, food. Selling food and selling a ball are two completely different things, aren't they? This is the National Pulse.
Imagine the endless possibilities with Powerball and Powerball Plus at 131 million rand in jackpots this Friday. You heard right. Play Powerball for an estimated 46 million rand jackpot and Powerball Plus for the life-changing 85 million rand guaranteed jackpot today. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old and play responsibly. E2 is a proud operator of the National Lottery.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
So I did tell you that we have a fascinating fireside chat guest coming up well after 5. We do this every Friday. And it's the chairperson of Eskom. But it's not just about Eskom conversations, okay? We'll be talking about his life. So looking forward to that conversation with the Eskom chair, and basically tell your friends as well. You can all join in here on the fireside chat. Let's get your thoughts on some of the big issues that we've covered so far. Again, the issue of tuck shops.
Good afternoon, Ashraf and your team. This is Flores from the Western Cape, man. When it comes to tuck shop, recklessness, lawlessness, okay, that was true. But yeah, it needs to be regularized. I know of tuck shop owners here in my own community who sleeps in it, man. And the majority of us don't buy food there because we know some of these conditions are filthy. Have a good day, bye-bye.
Okay, thank you so much for that. By the way, Western Cape, I will be in Cape Town tomorrow. I'll be there Saturday, Sunday, Monday. You never know. May just bump into you. Just saying that there for a family reunion, more Paarl than Cape Town, but landing in Cape Town tomorrow as a starting point. Here's another point about selling in schools.
Hi. Yeah, I know that it will be easy to stop selling at schools because South Africans are the ones selling at schools. But they cannot stop the foreigners to sell, to close their spaza shop. Because of it's easy to oppress the South Africans. this government of ours, something is wrong about them. This is Jacob in Mokopane.
Okay, they did say it's temporary. I'm just concerned that, they can't put a time limit at the moment in terms of how temporary is temporary or how permanent is temporary, right? Clearly, there's more comment on the food issues. Here's Marvelous in KZN. Hi, Marvelous. We chatted yesterday. I remember that.
Yes, hi, Ashraf. How are you?
Good to connect with you, man. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, Ashraf, I don't know whether to say it's funny or what. Remember before the elections, if Ramaphosa was quiet as he is right now regarding the food poisoning, the opposition parties, especially the DA, would have been barking at him by now. But now, because they share the same bed, they are all quiet. How interesting.
But do you think they really are quiet? Because the point is, what I'm saying, the president maybe hasn't spoken, but remember when we speak to the Free State MEC, it's a representation of government. When we speak to Gauteng, it's a representation of government. So does it always have to be the president?
Not really, but if it was before the elections, if they were not in this government of national unity, they would have started criticizing him. That's one thing I know for sure.
Okay.
But now, they can be quiet and not say anything. But if it was back then, they would have been criticizing him by now.
All right. Well, you raise an interesting point. Thanks for that, Marvelous. So, there's been this thing that because parties are in the GNU, they are soft on each other, right? And yes, I'm trying to understand, if I can remember, when is, let's say, the opposition, opposition, they're not opposition anymore. I'm talking about the DA. Have they been as critical now of the leadership of the president as they would have been if they were outside of government? And maybe you're right. On the other hand, it's not like them being part of the GNU. They're all chommies. They're all friends. In fact, just yesterday, Fikile Mbalula made the point. He says, and I'm quoting him directly, okay, we in the ANC hate the GNU. Seriously. That's what he said. We in the ANC hate the GNU. Did you hear that? And what do you make of that? Pumzila in Humansdorp, go ahead. What's your thoughts, Pumzila?
Greetings, Ashraf. How are you, man?
I'm very good indeed. Good Friday afternoon. Not that I say I'm happy because I'm not working, because I must tell you I enjoy. For me, Mondays I love Mondays because it gives me back the chance to connect with people like yourself. So go ahead. Yeah.
Ashraf, let me agree with our Secretary General. I have actually expressed my view as much as I'm a disciplined member of the ANC, but I hate the GNU arrangement with passion. And what happens here, if we cannot actually observe, the Democratic Alliance is running a parallel cabinet to that one of the president. And they are going to continue to undermine the state president. Now, you see, there are many things that are said here by Helen Zille. And if the ANC cannot put its foot down and say enough is enough, because they think that GNU depends on them as the DA, and yet it is not. You must see, Ashraf, I'm a councillor here in Kochel municipality led by the Democratic Alliance. They don't talk about the ANC ministers. Whenever there's a council meeting, you will hear them. We'll invite the Minister of Home Affairs. We'll invite the Minister of Agriculture. We'll invite the Minister of Public Works. We'll invite this and that minister that is actually DA, so to speak. Now, you don't hear them talking about the ANC ministers being invited to Kocha municipality. Now, to me, the sooner the DA leaves that GNU, the better, because they are there. If we cannot wake up, they are there to eat the ANC from inside. Because you things that they are doing, they're trying to outshine. In fact, ANC and other ministers.
Yeah, but I hear you. But the reality is, and I hear that. Let's leave it at that, Pumzila. But here's the point, right? Also, I think to extend the conversation of what Fikile Mbalula said is this SG of the ANCs. We hate the GNU, but then he obviously continues saying, what we have is the card we were dealt with. And I'm paraphrasing here. And the same for the DA and the same for everybody else. So currently, if you were an ANC supporter and you can't stand the sight of the GNU, then you must understand why it is the GNU right now. Because your party lost sufficient votes to get below 50%, in fact to get to as low as 40%, that forced them to renegotiate how they stay in power. And you have to wonder then, why did they lose the votes in the first place? And the reality for all of that, and it's true, whichever way you want to spin it, that they lost votes ultimately. Leave the Zuma part and all that. Ultimately, if the ANC were delivering service delivery top-notch, it's very difficult to turn away from them. You say, hey, these are the guys who deliver. At this point in time, that's been a problem. Think about that. Zwelakhe in Mangaung, go ahead, hello.
Hello.
Yeah,
hello.
Good talking to you.
Ashraf.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Ashraf, on Wednesday you had a call. You connected with the Mangaung executive mayor regarding the issue of Brandbus social housing project.
Yes, I did.
And I can safely tell you that whatever that the executive mayor told you, or the decisions that the mayor made, lacks legal insight and the general understanding of what is happening around that institution itself. For one, the mayor made a comment that the municipality owes a SRA, and there's no such thing that the municipality owes a SRA. The mayor must just accept that his officials are misleading him into making wrong decisions, which are reckless in nature. One of the key things that needs to be understood around this issue is that the municipality, in its own capacity, cannot administer the social housing project. You can go to Law Social Housing Act. It will show you that only social housing institutions are allowed, or other delivery agents can do
Okay,
that.
so I'm going to push you because we have news. Yeah. So I hear you saying, okay, he lacks the grasp of what needs of the legal issues. But what for you needs to happen to resolve this issue?
It's a very straightforward thing. SRA must come and SRA must account, because SRA has taken the social housing institution that was responsible for that for that project under administration, and to date, since 2020 to date, we haven't yet even got the administration report on that. The place is neglected, the place is not doing great, and then the city itself now blames the tenants, and the tenants that are having valid contracts with the social housing institute that was there. So the simplest thing that the city needs to do, the city must bring everyone on board, make sure that everyone is brought to account.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Thank you. Easier said than done. Let's hope it happens. I completely concur with you if it can be delivered, right? Zwelakhe, thanks for that call and that update and your interpretation. I think it's important. When we speak about the national pulse, it's not just what we say, it's what you feel. And goodness, your pulse rate certainly, that rate goes higher when you feel very emotionally about an issue, isn't it? Let's get the news now. It's 4 o'clock. Here's Ondela Imbana.
Thank you, Ashraf. Top stories at 4. Bella Act ready to be implemented, and businesses suffer losses from the closure of the Lebombo border. For SAFM News, I am Ondela Imbana, and a very good afternoon. Basic Education Minister Siviwe Gwarube says it's all systems go with the implementation of the Basic Education Laws Amendment Act, commonly known as the Bella Act. The announcement comes amid the ongoing consultation process on 2 clauses of the legislation. Last month, President Cyril Ramaphosa signed the Bella Bill into law. However, he decided to delay the implementation of the 2 provisions dealing with admission and language pending the outcome of the consultation process over 3 months. Gwarube says it is a constitutional responsibility to implement and promulgate the necessary regulations for the commencement of the enforcement of the Act.
The Bella Act as it stands is essentially ready for implementation with the exception of clauses 4 and 5. So as a department, we've already started the process of implementing the Bella Act, because it is, of course, has been signed into law. In fact, we've started to engage provinces and to essentially roll out workshops that the department has started to roll out, so that provinces are ready and are primed to be able to implement provisions of the Bella Act, with, of course, the exception of clauses 4 and 5.
Johannesburg Water will start implementing water reduction between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. starting next week. This is to alleviate intermittent water pressure and outages experienced in the metro. Most of Joburg North has been without water this week due to a power trip at Rand Water's Palmead Pump Station. Joburg Water says restoration is taking place with the Midrand area being prioritized. Reservoir levels in Johannesburg are currently sitting at 40%, which is still inadequate. Johannesburg Water's Mzakim Trainee says water reductions will start in where there's high water usage.
In those areas, we'll be implementing water reduction from 9 in the evening until 5 in the morning. This will be done on a scheduled base. A schedule will be publicized. It will be shared with the customers. It will be shared with the media houses so that it's known that your area between 9 and 5 on this day, it will be receiving reduced supply. So this will assist us in building the reserves, but at the same time, it will assist us in reducing the losses.
As residents of Umgababa in the south of Durban gather for President Cyril Ramaphosa's Imbizo, they are lamenting the crime levels, unemployment and the poor supply of water and electricity. Today's event in Umgababa is billed as a district development model Imbizo. District development models are government's medium to long-term frameworks for integrated development. These Umgababa residents are optimistic ahead of President Ramaphosa's visit.
We don't want to spend days without electricity. That destroys our food. We want jobs for our children, and we also have water challenges. There's a high rate of crime here. I think unemployment is contributing to crime. As pensioners, we are now forced to use our pensions to take care of our families.
A 50-year-old male patient who was admitted at Bloemfontein's Pelanomi Hospital is believed to have jumped to his death from the third floor of the hospital. Free State Health Department spokesperson Mondli Mvambi says yesterday morning hospital management was alerted about a lifeless body of male patient. Mvambi says the patient was from the burns unit, walked down the stairs from the 7th floor until he found an open male toilet on the 3rd floor with a back window open, and he threw himself down. Mvambi says the patient did not show any signs of emotional distress. He says the deceased next of kin have been informed about the incident and law enforcement authorities are dealing with the matter. Businesses operating in Nkomathi near the Lebombo border post with Mozambique are bearing the brunt of the ongoing post-election protests in that country. Operations at the border have been suspended amid the deepening post-election crisis. Some of the business people say they're forced to cut down on their staff.
They'll stop here and will get their fruit and veggies and all the essentials for their households. For the past 3-4 days, there's been a significant drop in, obviously, trade. We're down about 90 to 95% of the total revenue that we would collect in the past few days.
We do not have any business going on at the moment since the elections. We wish for everything just to be sorted. It's not good for business in Nkomathi itself.
Recapping the top story, Basic Education Minister Siviwe Kwagube says it's all systems go with the implementation of the Basic Education Laws Amendment Act, commonly known as the Bella Act. I am Ondela for SAFM News. Headlines at 4:30.
And coming up in your sports this hour, Springbok team announced for Sunday's clash against Scotland. England women have named their squads for the South African tour and plans in place to expand CAF Women's Champions League. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N12 R24 westbound in Bedfordview is slow moving on both routes towards Gillilees Interchange. The N1 southbound in Pretoria had an earlier stationary truck reported just before Regal Avenue, and that has been cleared. In KZN, the N3 eastbound is queuing towards the M13 Paradise Valley Interchange. The N3 eastbound has a stationary vehicle reported before Spaghetti Junction. The N3 westbound in Cliffdale has a stationary truck reported after Key Ridge. Umgeni Road westbound is slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, the N2 eastbound has a crash reported. That's before the R300 highway. All lanes are open. The N2 outbound has a crash before Lisbeck Parkway, and Marine Drive outbound in Maitland is queuing towards Bloxton Road. With your traffic updates, I'm Irma G.
The Hammers have a mammoth task to find a path to the top half. They target maximum points against the Toffees.
And bundled in by Sensio Somerville, his first West Ham United goal.
Meanwhile, the Toffees have the same predicament. They want out of the bottom half as soon as possible.
It's a cross goal and it's netted by Beto, and Everton have equalised 4 minutes into
This is the Premier League. Catch the exciting clash between West Ham United FC and Everton FC on Saturday 9 November at 4:30 p.m. live on SABC3. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
You know, I'll tell you what, wherever I've been over the years, when I was with SAFM before and then even not, and now that I'm back on, I often bump into people and they say, interesting things about SAFM, the listeners, the audience, the callers, the type of shows that we all do. One of the things many people have commented about has been the book reading program that takes place from 11:45 to 12 o'clock on Kathy's show, right? Every day, in fact, right? And they always love it because it's an actual book reading. It's an audio book reading. So even if you can't read, you can listen if you're driving in the car. Or for many people who may be blind, well, clearly you got the audio option. Or even if you can see, you actually have that option of being completely fixed to a book reading in audio form, which I must tell you is riveting the way it's done. Now, why I say that, because last night we had the Essay Literary Awards, and there was a series of awards given to different people for books, right? But amongst them, the Literary Journalism Award for 2024 was awarded to SAFM, specifically for the book reading program. So how's that? Fabulous stuff, I think. And if you listen to it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It's just great stuff. So well done to the team that puts together the book reading show, if I can call it that, within Kathy's show. And if you haven't heard it before, please listen. Every day, 11:45 to 12 o'clock, 15 minutes, right? Well, maybe we'll get an award for Eskom one of the days. By the way, I'm chatting to Mteto Niati, the chairperson of Eskom, not so much about Eskom, about himself and his own journey, because he is my Friday Fireside Chat guest. That should be fabulous. He's got a great story as a leader. I can show you of that. Listen out for that 5 to 6 p.m. Having said all of that, there are problems around Eskom and power supply. Not load shedding, no, although there's been power failures. I've had a power failure last night. Well, yesterday from 12 in the afternoon till 1:30 in the morning, so like 13 and a half hours, right? However, this is important. Eskom announced that it has now started the process to cut power supply to Johannesburg's city power. Not because Eskom's got no power and they have to restrict it. No, the reason they want to do that is because city power has not paid them a bill of 6.3 billion rands, 4.9 billion of which is in arrears, okay? And Eskom now saying they won't cut the complete power supply. They will create what is called an interrupted power supply. So what will happen is certain times in the day, they are basically, it's the stick and carrot method. They're telling City Power, well, you're not paying us. We are going to effectively interrupt your power supply so you deal with your customers. And the problem of that is it's okay if the two powers have their own argument. The power failure then is affected by all of us, because if City Power doesn't have power, it means if you live in that city, in this case Johannesburg, then you don't have power. So that's a big issue. Let's try and understand what this really means in the greater context, not just of you and I also, but of Eskom saying, hey, we can't run Eskom efficiently, City Power, Johannesburg, if you don't pay us. Chris Yellen is with us. He's an energy expert. Chris, good chatting to you. Hi.
Your listeners.
We lost your first bit, but I heard your listeners. So I think you certainly are there. Like, what do you make of this plan gambit by Eskom?
Well, look, Eskom, is between a rock and a hard place. And it's not just City Power, although City Power has emerged as a very big debtor to Eskom. And City Power is probably one of Eskom's biggest customers. But municipal debt, arrear debt at the moment is sitting at about 85 billion rand. And it's growing at more than R1 billion a month. So, very shortly it's going to be 100 billion rand and more. And as the price of electricity goes up, and you know what Eskom's intentions are, or they have applied for an increase of 36% next year, and a 44% increase to municipalities, I think the problem is going to get significantly worse, and this arrear debt's going to grow even faster. But turning to City Power itself, Eskom is threatening, to effectively load curtail or load shed or load reduce the city, just as it is doing, to certain of its areas of supply where they are causing overloading of the power system due to electricity theft and non-payment. So it's now threatening to do this to the city of Johannesburg. I think it's just it's part of the arm wrestling that is going on. I don't think that look, Eskom cannot just cut the city of Johannesburg. The courts will stop that. Eskom hasn't done that before, but they have progressively tried to make things more and more uncomfortable for the municipality, and in so doing, kind of create bottom-up objection from customers who are saying to their municipality, listen, we are paying you, you're not paying Eskom. Eskom is now curtailing us, and we're all suffering, and we are paying customers. So this creates a bottom-up sort of approach, to the problem, as well as Eskom is doing a top-down approach. And Eskom's approach to many municipalities, I'm now talking about, for example, the Vereniging debacle, and there's a debacle going on in Kwakwa, but essentially, in those cases, Eskom finally resorted to legal action to, freeze their bank accounts, and to take over the administration of electricity in their areas of supply, because they're obviously not competent on doing it themselves, because they can't collect the money from their own customers. Not that I think Eskom is going to have much joy either, because, you can't get blood out of a stone.
So then, do you think? I mean, we know the need of Eskom. We understand that. City Power may also argue to say, hold it. In our city, in this case, say Johannesburg, there are many people who simply are not paying us, and we understand why, because they can't afford to pay. It's too darn expensive. Not just people who are impoverished or indigent, as some describe it, but even people who are middle-class people are absolutely struggling for the high cost of electricity. So we get that, right? And with a 40% unemployment, it's easily explained, isn't it, right? What then is the correct business strategy, and what's the moral strategy to apply to this?
This problem has been kicked down the road for several decades now, and it's time that government should stop putting its head in the sand like an ostrich. I call it the ostrich head in the sand syndrome, and to actually start dealing with this problem effectively. It has never dealt with it effectively for the last 20 years.
So how should they?
I think, well, the Minister of Electricity has, I think for the first time we've had a Minister of Energy who's actually said, this is a massive problem that we have to deal with it. And the first step is to firstly acknowledge that there actually is a problem. Now that, I think, has been missing for many years. But he has now acknowledged it's a problem, and he doesn't know what the solution is, and nor do I. But what he has said is we've got to get the people that are affected, the stakeholders, whether it's government, whether it's NERSA, Eskom, municipalities, and customers, around the table to actually deal with this problem. At the moment, we're just kicking the can down the road and not actually dealing with it.
So for now,
I'm not saying what the solution is, but until we actually sit around and face the problem, and ultimately the problem is the financing of municipal services is not sustainable in the current mechanism.
Okay. I can tell you now, besides speaking to you as an independent analyst, Eskom doesn't want to talk about it, besides issuing the statement that they have, and the same with City Power. They don't really want to talk about it. The reality is for us, the consumers, who live in the city, somehow or the other, pretty soon we will be affected by something that is our indirect problem, and it's not our problem 100%. And yet, that will again affect productivity, which then undermines Eskom's claim to be effectively load-shedding free for all these months.
Unless we deal with this problem and start taking ownership of this as our problem. It's not just Eskom's problem or the municipality's problem. We are the customers, and ultimately it will affect us.
So how do we deal with that?
Well, those customers that can start making alternative arrangements, for their own security of supply. We think load shedding is over. Yes, load shedding is kind of over. But the next problem is emerging, and that is the problem with municipal electricity distribution and the financing of municipal services, including electricity. And that is starting to become the next major crisis. We've got to deal with it in the same way as government dealt with load shedding. In other words, to face this problem head on, to acknowledge the problem head on, and at the highest level and at every level.
Well, I don't know if we faced
the resources to deal with this.
I don't know whether we faced it. I think we experienced it. Face it, the reality is only those who can afford it were able to make alternative arrangements, as you called it. But let's leave it at that, Chris Yellen. Thanks for your time. I tell you what, although the chat with Mteto Nyati is very much a profile chat coming up in the fireside chat at 5 o'clock. Certainly one or two things about Eskom I will definitely ask him, including how does it deal with this issue that you've just mentioned. Thanks for your time. As always, Chris Yellen. Right. Your comments on Eskom and what you've heard regarding not just City Power, maybe others, where effectively there'll be interrupted supply to them because City Power, are not paying Eskom, and Eskom can't afford it, even if the public's paying City Power or not paying them. Either way, you could have blocks of cities now being switched off as a way of warning to say, pay or else, like a final demand of sorts, isn't it? Right, this is the National Pulse.
Imagine the endless possibilities with Powerball and Powerball Plus at 131 million rand in jackpots this Friday. You heard right. Play Powerball for an estimated 46 million rand jackpot and Powerball Plus for the life-changing 85 million rand guaranteed jackpot today. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old and play responsibly. eTuba is a proud operator of the National Lottery.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
All right, what about your solutions? I mean, listening on the back of the chat with Chris Yellen, how do you deal with the Eskom City Power interrupted supply problem, where Eskom effectively is warning City Power, you don't pay us, we will cut off supply to you, which means you're going to cut off supply to the public. How do you deal with that, urgently? Think about that. And don't forget your one word that you would use to describe the spate of food poisoning in our country. What do you think about it? Just one word. Elsie saying it's pathetic. Catherine Hendricks is saying it's I think it's unpassionate. I need to read that properly. Let me get my facts right around that. Here's another comment. Hi, Ashraf. Why doesn't the Eskom team just take over the municipality under its wing? Instead of paying the municipality, we pay Eskom, so they have a direct access to their customers. Eskom is a state-owned company. In fact, they've done it with one or two others also. They don't always do it very well. I mean, only now we've had a new management at Eskom in the last year. Are we seeing some changes? We've had serious Eskom problems in the past, and you know that. And there's by no means suggesting that they're over that, isn't it? Okay, let's talk about Walking with the People Walk and Community March. The ANC Secretary General, Fikile Mbalula, well, he's been a busy person. He led the Walking with the People Walk and Community March in the city of Tshwane today. This is after yesterday he pronounced on all things ANC. Now, the SABC News reporter Sibatle Mota was in the city and joins me on the line now. So, Sibatle, good chatting to you as always. Thanks for connecting to the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and to the listeners.
Okay, there's an interesting title, Walking with the People Walk and Community March. What actually happened?
So basically, the ANC SG was leading this march for various reasons. among those reasons is economic equity as well as service delivery issues. And I think one needs to understand it in the context of a new administration in Tshwane, and they were saying that they still want to remind the people of Tshwane that they are not alone and that their basic needs and services will be met, especially following 8 years of the DA being at the helm. So that's what they were there to do, and to hand over a memorandum to the new mayor in Tshwane, just also telling the people of Tshwane that most of their service delivery issues will be, dealt with, especially under this administration, which is being led by Dr. Nasiphi Moya, who's also part of ANC-led coalition, but however, she's part of Action SA. So that's what the march was all about today, Ashraf.
Okay, and what is the reaction? Because, the march is a march from, ANC-driven people, but you're also getting the public all around them, and you find them either supportive or not supportive of the march?
I mean, they are supportive. Most of them were actually supportive. I mean, I even spoke to one guy who was saying that they haven't had electricity for a while now, and they have been plagued by obviously the water crisis that has hit various parts of Tshwane. But most importantly, which I thought was also very important, is the crime issue that was raised, and he was saying that there isn't enough policing or police visibility yet, and this crime rate has been going up in this area. So I think it seems like they were very receptive, and the fact that possibly even feeling encouraged that they have a new mayor who may also, just take their cries more seriously than the previous administration, but only time will tell. And another thing is that the ANC Regional Secretary, George Malatsi, was saying that their demands, they're taking their demands through this new administration, and they expect feedback at least in 100 days since they have taken over office.
Okay. And, do you get a sense that people believe that'll happen?
Only time will tell in these things, Ashraf. They are hopeful, I guess, but, people are looking for tangible results. If I see brown water coming out of my tap, I want that resolved, so within 100 days, then we will obviously be following up on the story and see if any tangible result has been seen by the ordinary Tshwane residents.
Well, let's leave it there. I'll tell you what, thank you. I think you're right. Ultimately, a march is a march, but people want to see the color of the water changing. If that changes, it's thumbs up. If it doesn't change, no march will make much of a difference. Sibatle Mosa, thanks for your time. SABC News reporter covering the story or the march called Walking with the People Walk and Community March. Right. We've had further comment on your one word to describe the food poisoning issues that have plagued our country. Here's one, I think it's Tebogo. Why one word would be catastrophe. Yeah, Tebogo from Hammanskraal. Stink water, catastrophe. Now, let's move on to other things. I want to get some of the WhatsApp. In fact, what we'll do, here's an important issue, right? The president, that's Cyril Ramaphosa, well, he's commented on the implementation of the Bella Act when he was speaking at the presidential Imbizo that's in Umgababa in KZN today.
Those discussions must come to an end at the end of December. If kungenasivumelwano, i-act le iyonke is immediately activated. The minister has started to implement the Bella Act, as she will explain. And it's una ukuthi sinike isithuba ukuthi ayichaze kahle. I know ukuthi there are interests lapha, and it's important ukuthi kube ne-explanation ukuthi senzani na at the national level. So, if Bella Act is being implemented, except for those two, and lapho ubeke i-date literally just 6 weeks.
Right, and in essence, what he's saying, in that mixture between English and isiZulu, is that there's been some ongoing negotiations, but they're on track regarding implementation, and the plan is to reach agreement with all the parties, #DA, but whether it happens or not, they will go ahead with implementing that act, and what was left out in the original clauses into law in January. So according to him, it's going to happen. Okay, let's get to further comments from you. Lots more about the one-word state of food poisoning and what it means in our country.
Hi, Ashraf and your team and lovely South Africans. The one word for this poisoning matter is infiltration. Thank you.
The infiltration. You're not explaining what that infiltration means. I get that. Here's another.
Hey, Ashraf, you know, I have never heard in our law something that says the president can hold a section of the law not to be implemented. I know that if he is not satisfied with the bill, he refers it back to Parliament in its entirety. I have never heard where he opens up new consultation process and is opening it up to a section of people. I'm also shocked that the foundations of so and so are quiet to this madness. They're not protesting or taking the president to court. Thanks, Bongi here.
Okay, Sis Bongi, thank you for that. President to court. Well, I mean, you are right. I don't think any president's got the absolute power. Not at all. No ways, right? Okay, let's see if we've got further comments that we've got. Let's get to, in fact, Willie Okamp, who's the DA spokesperson, who wants to comment on the Eskom issue. Willie, hi.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Always good to speak to you and SAFM's listeners.
Thank you. Go ahead. What's your point, Willie?
Ashraf, I think the main problem underlying here is how municipalities are running their own debt. If you look at what happened in the city of Joburg a couple of years ago when the DA was in charge of that city and we had a mayor there, the DA-run municipality did not owe Eskom 1 cent. In actual fact, they had a credit with Eskom. When you look at City Power and what's happened there, cadre deployment is thriving there. We have, from the DA side, asked questions to City Power and to Johannesburg with regards to the appointments that they've made. They've got a lot of people at City Power that are not technical people.
But Willie, I'm going to interrupt you only because, you know, I don't want to go back months and years. We can spend an hour talking about it, believe me, on many DA issues as well. Specifically, the practical present tense now is City Power are threatening interrupted power to, rather, Eskom are threatening interrupted power to City Power in city of Joburg because Eskom hasn't paid them money. What do you think is the issue there? How do we resolve that? What is the practical solution to it?
Ashraf, one of the practical solutions that the DA has put forward in the past is that the money that municipalities get in for electricity from their customers, from you and me and everybody that pays our electricity, that those amounts must be ring-fenced. In other words, if I pay 2,000 or 3,000 rands toward electricity, that money for the electricity must not be spent on day-to-day running of municipality stuff and salaries to people, but that those amounts must go towards paying Eskom for the electricity that they supplied. The problem that the ANC government has got is that their day-to-day running costs are way too high, bloated salaries to people that are not capable of doing their jobs. So you get corruption climbing in, and you've got this underpayment, or in this case of Johannesburg, non-payment. Now Johannesburg.
Okay, I'm going to leave it there. I'm afraid. I mean, I got your point about ring fencing their income, and that all becomes expense in terms of who they're paying to their one supplier, which would be Eskom. Is that the way to go? And how quickly should they be doing that? Don't forget, unrelated by the way, but we're chatting to Mteto Niati, the Eskom chairperson, coming up on a profile chat in the fireside chat after 5 o'clock. Let's get the news headlines now. It's for 30 years on Della.
Thank you, Ashraf. News headlines. If government goes ahead with the implementation of the newly signed Bella Act, the piece of legislation is set to be challenged in the courts. This is the view of the ACDP in Parliament. Another foodborne illness case has been registered in the Northwest Province. 2 learners from RB Ditupe Primary School in Lihurudzi outside Zeerust have been admitted to Lihurudzi Hospital, and the Lebombo border post has been partially reopened after the South African Border Management Authority engaged in talks with the Mozambican counterparts to have the border opened for Mozambicans who want to travel home. A full update follows at the top of the hour with Greg Hose.
SAFM guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 southbound is slow moving through Crown interchange towards Boysons. In Midrand, the N1 northbound queuing towards Olifantsfontein Road, and the N1 southbound queuing near New Road. In KZN, the N3 westbound has a stationary truck reported after Key Ridge. The N2 northbound has a crash reported before Mgeni Road, and the R102 is slow moving through Mount Moriah. In Cape Town, the N2 eastbound has a crash before the R300 highway. All lanes are open. The N2 outbound has a crash before Lisbeth Parkway, and Marine Drive outbound in Maitland is queuing towards Loxton Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Duming Kapele.
Right, Stubby, what's in your sports bag?
Well, we're starting off with news coming from the Springbok cap, where Springbok loose forward Kwagga Smith will earn his 50th Test cap on Sunday when the Springboks line up against Scotland at Murrayfield in their opening Castle outgoing tour clash. Locks Franco Mostert and Archie Snyman returned to the green and gold after time on the sidelines due to an injury in a strong team that has been named by national coach Rassie Erasmus. Eben Etzebeth will captain the side with Siya Kolisi starting on bench. Smith will start at number 8 as he celebrates this significant career milestone, and Erasmus opted for a split of 7 forwards and 1 back on the replacements bench and made 11 changes to the starting team that defeated Argentina. In cricket, England women have named the squad for the South Africa tour. All-rounder Paige Schofield is included in the T20 squad alongside fast bowler Lauren Fuller. Freya Kemp is selected in a test squad for the first time, while batter Maya Boucher could also earn her maiden test cap. Now, the 4-day test match in Bloemfontein will be the first time South Africa has hosted a women's test match since 2002. And all selected players, excluding those currently competing in the Women's Big Bash League, have been training at Louwbrough in the build-up to the series before the T20 group fly to South Africa on the 16th of November. Meanwhile, those in the ODI and Test squads arrive in South Africa on the 27th of November. In football, CAF head of women's football, Maskerem Goshime, says that there are plans in place to expand the current 8-team CAF Women's Champions League to either 12 or 16 teams. However, she was quick to add that before all that happens, a lot of issues must first be addressed, among them getting more clubs involved in the qualifiers so as to improve competition. Goshime says that Africa wants to send a very strong representative to the upcoming inaugural FIFA Women's World Cup in 2026.
For the expansion, also we want to see how many clubs are engaged. Right now we have grown from 33 before when we start to 36, but we want more member association engaging in the qualifiers before we can push it forward and say that we need 12 team or 16 team final. But yes, there is a future plan to make sure that it's expanded, especially now that we have the World Cup of clubs. We want to make sure that we have a strong representation in the World Cup. Once we've determined who is the champion or who's going to the World Cup, we will make sure that those clubs are supported, have friendlies available for them so that they can strongly represent Africa and the continent in general. But as for now, we're really focusing on making sure that we develop this strong brand of Women's Champions League, make it competitive, because when you are 8, you also make sure that the one reaching the final is very strong, you know. So before moving to expansion, we want to make sure that we have more engagement from our member association. We're really working on domestic leagues. We're making sure that they are administrated very well. For example, in the last Women Football Champions League qualifiers, we went with the zonal unions and make sure that the clubs understand what professional football looks like.
Elsewhere, Arne Slot says that he's not shocked by a stunning start to life in charge of Liverpool as the Reds have stormed to the top of the Premier League and Champions League. The Dutch coach has won 14 and drawn one of his 16 matches in charge in all competitions as the holders have also progressed to the League Cup quarterfinals. Slot appeared to have jumped into huge shoes to follow Jurgen Klopp. However, he has built on solid foundations left by the German after Liverpool finished third in the Premier League behind Manchester City and Arsenal last season. Finally, in golf, the Sunshine Ladies Tour will celebrate its 12th season with another strong schedule of local and international tournaments, increased prize money, and a reward for the champions to chase R1 million payday. In announcing its 2025 schedule, the Sunshine Ladies Tour unveiled a season of 8 tournaments to be played from February to April. The season will once again be anchored by the 2 co-sanctioned events with the Ladies European Tour, the Joburg Ladies Open at Modderfontein Golf Club, and the Investec South African Women's Open at the Ernvale Golf Estate. With that said, it's a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour.
Perfect. Thanks for that. And certainly we then look forward to the box match against the Scots at the weekend. Thanks for that to me.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course. We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll know your car's value in no time. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
Are you looking for the best spectacle and sunglass deal? At Specsavers, get a free pair of branded prescription sunglasses up to 3,200 Rand. Affordable eye care, Specsavers. T's and C's apply.
Right, so make a note of this now. You know this, we've been talking about it for a while. Eskom has this plan for you to recode your meter, right? So all Eskom customers are reminded to recode their prepaid meters by the 24th of November deadline. But if your meter is not recoded, it will not accept prepaid electricity token. So basically, you cannot have any power, right? Eskom has made the process easier for you now. They've pre-coded all the meters. So what you need to be doing is go to any Eskom-approved electricity outlet, buy the electricity credit token, and they've got a team there on standby to help you.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
And by the way, talking about Eskom, Mteto Nyati is my fireside chat guest after 5. He's the chairperson of Eskom, amongst many other things he's done, right? But let's get to the markets with Paswani Mpatlela, Senior Accounts Manager at Makwe Fund Managers. Good connecting with you as always, Paswani. Give me the numbers, local and global markets.
Good afternoon, Ashraf and to all our listeners, guys. What a week it's been, Ashraf, hey? Following the crossing over of the U.S. risk event that saw Trump win and causing a lot of anxiety and panic across the risky assets because of its trade tariffs to come, inflationary pressures that we expected. We've seen now markets settled overnight. We were looking at the likes of the dollar and the yields as they welcomed last night U.S. Fed's interest rate cut of 25 basis points. The Fed did highlight that it will continue to assess incoming data to determine what their decision would be in December, but it did also highlight that there will be sticky price pressures relative to last year as we go into year end, and this is supported by the data we've been seeing since the beginning of Q4. When you look at the likes of how yields have been reacting higher, commodity prices reacting higher, the increase in rate of changes when you look at the components such as money supply all throughout to the likes of sentiment, and markets generally as a current sitting, they have priced in for another cut coming into December. But this path is at risk going into 2025 because of the potential increase in spending of Trump's policies, tariff effects on generally hurting the global growth, especially when you look at the likes of China, who are our key trading partners, who have today, have approved the 1.4 trillion rand debt package to steady their growth and ensure that they meet their target. But market weren't necessarily very pleased about this package they've put out because it lacked a bit of effort when coming to direct consumer consumption, and oil prices immediately reflected on that. As we saw it went as much as down as currently down 0.7 at $74.80 a barrel, pressured further by the likes of the U.S. demand also being lackluster there. Gold prices are down 0.1 at $2,703 an ounce, but above that $2,700 level. More confidence around that tradable level, offering room for another all-time high to come later if things go well. Equities were generally mixed. We see the likes of the U.S. open up slightly by 0.1 across their indexes. When you look at S&P, Nasdaq, the Dow, Europe was down. We see the FTSE was down 0.5, CAC down 0.8, DAX is down 0.6. There's still some political instability boiling up there. We'll see where it goes. Locally, JSE is down 0.6. Weekly losses are going to be locked in, pressured by the likes of resources right now down 1.8, industrials down 0.3, financials were down 0.4, and coming into the FX market, the rand is down 1%. It's been very volatile. Rand against the dollar is at 17.50, rand against the euro 18.82, and rand against the pound 22.64.
Okay, that means time for you to say goodbye. Great chatting to you as always, Paswani. We will connect with you on Monday. Thank you for that. Right, let's get to your calls after this.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
And by the way, you know that Nandini Panda will be talking at the SAFM public lecture, the annual lecture, 21st of November, right? I'll be there. I hope you're going to be there. info@safm.co.za if you're up to joining us for free, but you need to get there in Boksburg, sort of just near the airport, at the OR Tambo Airport in Gauteng. Okay, let's get to some of your comments.
Shalom, Mr. One Word, Ashraf Garda. This is Wisdom. One word is hopeless. Thank you. Bye.
Oh my goodness. Hopeless. Without any hope is what it means.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Mcete here. Ashraf, one word for the poisoning of our youth, of our children, is the uncaring government. I said so because why, when they opened the borders, they didn't monitor what is coming in and going out? There used to be a company known as the SABC here, the South African Bureau of Standards. Do you still see that on the labels of what we bought in shops? I don't think so. All the things that comes in used to be monitors, not anymore. That's why I said so. Thanks, Mcete here.
Okay, I hear your point. It's probably SABS, by the way, as opposed to SABC, which you'll find because you can just come and check me out. I'm here right away, and that's where I am right now in Johannesburg. Let's get another comment.
Hi, this is Cynthia. I am just happy that our economy is looking up. So I feel that the DA has made a positive impact on the GNU, the Government of National Unity. We are seeing the economy recovering, and that is a good thing.
Okay, got that, Cynthia. Let's see how we can continue, because I think the reality is that's just one aspect. There's so many different, aspects that goes into the functioning of a country, right? Here's another.
Hi, Ashraf. You'll be in Cape Town tomorrow. Who's picking you up at the airport? I can pick you up at the airport and drop you in Paarl. Give me a shout. Fundo here from Cape Town. Enjoy. I hope to pump on your belt.
Oh, there you are. What's your free? That's what I'm just asking. So the plane is Cape Town tomorrow, staying open in Cape Town tomorrow. Sunday, all day Paarl. Sunday night, Cape Town. Monday, hosting the show from Cape Town, Sea Point, and coming back home. That's the plan for the next 3 days here. Well, me. Okay, some calls. Incognito in Durban. Hi.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and greet your staff as well, and all the SFM listeners.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. I wanted to concur with what one of the callers said when he said that the government does not do much, or rather when he wanted to say that the president himself should have called it out. Now I know the president is busy, but he can delegate his duties. That's why he's got ministers, which I find that he did not do much on that. What Fikile Mbalula and your previous guest in Labour, when he was talking to you, they're only coming up now because they were written a letter, you see, which had the photos of the most recent kids that had passed on. Now, what I find very bothersome is that over the last year, we had, when I listen to other different radio stations or from the SABC, we get like the Minister of Home Affairs and the callers would ask them that why are we having such a spike of these foreign-owned shops and all of that. And then the Minister of Home Affairs will tell you that they can't do it alone. They need the Minister or the Department of Labour. Another day, the Department of Labour will be called there. They would put it on the South African Police Service. You know, last year, we had to wait for Bheki Cele for his last month in office for him to go to Metro FM to talk to Faith, just to avoid every other topics that were brought to them. So now the government is not doing very much. You see, they're not doing very much.
So your point is they've lost connection with the electorate. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, exactly, because and another thing, Ashraf, it's quite what you call it,
disingenuous. Yeah.
Yes, for people to say that these spaza shops or these general dealers cost much higher than what you can get in town. They are there in the community. They save you time and the cost of going there to town to go to buy those things there. You see,
in fact, many may say they're much cheaper. I think that's really the issue.
And they get it from the wholesalers. Your ShopRites and all of them, they don't buy it from the wholesalers that we get to go to. You see, they can negotiate with the actual manufacturers and all of that. You see.
Okay, let's leave it at that.
Look at it like that.
Thank you for your contribution. Very important contribution, by the way. The firemen in Polokwane, you're going to put out the fires. Go ahead.
Yes, Ashraf, how are you?
I'm good indeed. Go ahead.
Yeah, you know, the incompetency of this government, man, is beyond comprehension. And I wonder why do we keep on voting these incompetent people? Ashraf, closing of this poor school vendors will never solve a problem, Ashraf. The government must actually conduct a study as to where these poor people are buying their goods from, Ashraf, and go and close those wholesalers. Simple as that.
So they must what? You're saying I'm trying to make sure to know exactly what you're saying. You're saying they must do what? The government must do?
The government must go and study as to where these street vendors buy their stock from.
Okay, I agree with that. Yes, that I agree. That, it's something I've said so early. There's a whole value chain. So it doesn't just come to the last person. Somebody, unless you know someone who's willfully, very deliberately poisoning people, and we have no proof of that, right? So there's yeah.
I once bought this mess from this local other shop.
Yeah.
I was sick after eating that, and I went to check the package of this, and I found that this are not from this country, Ashraf, are from overseas, Ashraf.
Okay, so that's another crazy story. How does it land up here in? Well, I mean, if it's overseas, it is legitimately, it's fine. But how did it land up here and then still being unhealthy for you? Firemen, thanks for that. We do need to absolutely put out the fires, but it is complex. So on the one hand, you've got the storekeeper in the spaza shop selling, and you're getting two types of food poisoning. The one type is where food is gone off because it's old and expired. That's wrong. Number two, selling of expired goods intentionally is wrong. If they are selling it unintentionally, they're also not being vigilant enough. That's also wrong. The fourth one are people who are deliberately poisoning food for whatever reason. I mean, that's murder. I do not understand it. Why would anyone want to do that? But even in the first cases, if you are selling foods that are expired and you're like, well, it's going to be fine, then be very, very careful in terms of what you are doing. From a government point of view, you have to wonder, it's another example of not having enough checks and balances in our country and all systems to ensure that we are all systems go. So then you have a situation like this, and then you realize, what's happened? But then it's possible it's been happening for a long time. And like that, you can duplicate that problem in 20 other problems, and you may find the same problems. They just manifest very, very differently.
Whew, what a day. Time for that face mask. Leave the face mask on for 2 minutes. 2 minutes? That's not even enough time for it to work. I can't even send an email in 2 minutes or make a cup of coffee.
With Santam, 2 minutes is enough to insure your car online. When you're fully protected with the expert insurer, you're free to live in the moment, not in the worry. Santam. This is freedom. Santam is an authorized FSP, a licensed non-life insurer and controlling company for its group companies.
India planned to cause an upset in Mzansi's own backyard. However, the Proteas are all about hitting the ground running at St. George's Oval to demonstrate what the Protea Fire looks like. What a summer without cricket! Catch the spectacular second T20 international match between South Africa and India on Sunday 10 November at 3:30 p.m. live on SABC3 and 4 p.m. on Radio 2000. With reports on various SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Okay, keep further calls coming in, and let's get those one word answers to my question. What's the one word for you that best describes the food poisoning crisis? And I use the word crisis that we're facing in our country. What's the one word about what you feel about it as opposed to what it is? What do you feel about it? So how do you send your one word? WhatsApp us 0614 104 107. Simple text message is absolutely fine. If you get a moment to call in, fine. But remember, after 5 o'clock today, we'll chat to Mteto Nyati. So that tone of the show will be very, very different because it's a one-on-one that we are doing. Okay, let's get on to other things in the meantime that I think are really important. And here's a fascinating one called Girl Effect, okay, which is a non-profit organization that uses the power of media and technology to unlock the power of girls in South Africa, in Nigeria, in Kenya, in India, in Ethiopia, and in Tanzania. And they've now launched the official launch of Jiki Zinto, which is Girl Effect, South Africa's flagship program. Okay, let's find out the story behind the story of Girl Effect. Emmanuel Chala Mgiba, who's the Girl Effect Senior Program Manager and the Interim Creative Lead for South Africa. Emmanuel, appreciate your time. You are now live on the National Pulse.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Right, so this sounds very, very interesting, but you better tell us more.
Yeah, so like you rightly mentioned, Girl Effect is an international non-profit. The way that we tackle our programming is fairly unique in the development/non-profit space where we use digital means and technological tools to access adolescent girls and young women primarily where they are, which is typically on their phones, on devices, television, looking at screens. And so we do that to reach them where they are, number one, and to reach them at scale. And yesterday we had the privilege and the honor of launching our flagship program here in South Africa called Jiki Zinto. And our program consists of a number of digital and technological tools that we use to reach young girls where they are and essentially just improve their quality of life.
Okay. So practically, how do you put all that together? Because, I mean, some may say all that you do is what other organizations and government ought to be doing anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. So the way we like to speak about ourselves, we call ourselves an aggregator. So we take all of the existing opportunities, all of the existing interventions in the development landscape, and we put it in a centralized place for young people to access. So like I mentioned, we have a number of digital products and tools that are part of the Jiki Zinto program. One of them is a service directory that can be found on our web application. And that service directory allows young people to look for services, whether it be mobile clinics, whether it be psychosocial support, economic empowerment interventions. They can find whatever service is closest to them and access that service. We also have a television series called Dichipi that's actually airing on SABC 1 every Thursday at 6:30. And that tells, I say that it's similar to the Salt City model, where through storytelling, we're putting out very compelling messages about public health, because sexually reproductive health is also one of our core mandates. And that's really how we tackle it. So we use a number of digital and technological tools. We have an AI-powered chatbot as well called Big Sis that's available on WhatsApp and on the Moya app. And so in so doing, we are just allowing information to be readily available at young people's fingertips. We're giving them the information and the tools that they need to make better choices and make better decisions about their lives across our focus areas, which are reproductive health, economic empowerment, and mental well-being.
And I take it, your use of digital, is it exclusively digital, and therefore that allows you to cross boundaries no matter where people are?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say it's exclusively digital, but it is primarily digital. So we're able to cross boundaries, we're able to reach young people at scale, but we also do have some community events and community engagement events that we make use of. So last week we were actually in Umlazi in Section M. We were in Mabopane as well in Soshanguve, where we actually had live screenings of our TV series, Dichipi. There were a number of young people in the room, and so we were able to educate, entertain, but also be on the ground with young people in a tangible way. So we employ both digital and in-person means, but our primary form of programming is digital.
Okay. And share with us, if you can, just maybe an anecdote or two about how it's changed some of the people you speak about.
Yeah, sure. So I'll give a story. There's a particular young lady who found herself in quite a precarious position with a romantic partner, and she felt unsafe. So she accessed the Big Sis chatbot, was able to be connected to a helpline agent who was able to speak to her in real time and give her a step-by-step plan of how to get help and support. And so after a follow-up call with her, the helpline agents were able to realize that she was actually now in a safe environment and she received the access to services that she needed. So that's one example. Another example is from our youth advisory panel. So because we are an organization that programs for young people, we want to co-create with them. So we have an advisory panel of about 12 young women, and so we have given them the opportunity to work very closely with us on this program, and many of them have spoken about how this has given them an opportunity to be part of something bigger than themselves and be part of creating tangible change in their community. So internally, through our youth advisory panel, we've been able to create an impact, but then also for young people who chat to Big Sis, chat to our helpline agents, or even watch Dichipi, our radio show, access services through our web app. We really just make it easier and lower the barrier to entry for them to get the support that they need.
All sounds fascinating. Direct me a bit to a website or an account of yours that I can share. It could be one of your digital accounts, yeah? Yeah,
absolutely. So our website is www.jiggy.co.za. So Jiggy is Jiki. We also have an Instagram page called Jiggy Zinto, and once you access that Instagram page, it will take you to all of our other digital and media products that fall within the Jiggy Zinto program. So that's where you can find us, but the first stop should be our website, which is www.jiggy.co.za.
Okay, perfect. Got that, Emmanuel. Chalam Giba from Girly Fact, Senior Program Manager there. And you've heard all about that, Jiggy, Jiki. Thank you for your time. Much appreciated. Sounds fascinating indeed. Some quick comments from people about the one-worder. So Rihanzu Baloyi is saying sabotage, one word to make way for big business. And Mavata tweeting about saying, in fact, terrorism. And many people saying that. So here's another couple. Someone talked about hygiene is the one word. I'm not too sure. Another one, Meg, saying slaughter. David saying, why just one word, I suppose. Catherine saying uncompassionate. And there's similar ones along that line. Nobody really understands it to say, hey, we get you. And I think they understandably intolerant of what has happened. Mtunzi saying on Twitter, Mtunzi Jack Bagati saying, scandalous. The government is now going to shut down business of innocent street vendors just before Christmas. Hopefully that'll all get sorted out in a matter of days, if that's what they're saying they're going to do. Right, let's get to the news. Then it's the fireside chat, where we chat to Mteto Niati, the chairperson of Eskom, but so much more than that. It's 5 o'clock. Here's Greg House.
Thank you, Ashraf. Bella Act could face legal challenges and the Lembombo border post is partially reopened. Good day to you. If government goes ahead with the implementation of the newly signed Bella Act, the legislation is set to be challenged in court. That's the view of the ACDP in Parliament. The party was reacting to an announcement by the Basic Education Minister that the process to implement the legislation has already started. The ACDP's Steve Swart.
The ACDP takes note with concern that the Minister of Basic Education intends implementing the provisions of the Bella Act, except for sections 4 and 5 relating to the powers of school governing bodies and mother tongue language education. The ACDP was at the forefront of opposition to the Bella Act in the 6th Parliament, where we robustly contested clauses relating to homeschooling, learner pregnancy and abortion, the closing of rural schools, criminalising parents and limiting the powers of school governing bodies. The constitutionality of these contentious clauses will now have to be decided by the Constitutional Court.
Another foodborne illness case has been reported in the northwest. 2 learners from a primary school outside Zeerust have been admitted to hospital. It's believed they started vomiting after eating popcorn bought from the school tuck shop. The Northwest Health Department's confirmed the admission of the learners and has yet to give full details. The parents of one of the learners affected by suspected food poisoning at a primary school in Bloemfontein in the Free State says she's worried about the well-being of the children. Nomathemba Nopali's child is among 47 learners admitted to hospital for allegedly consuming poisoned food. Meanwhile, 29 people have been arrested for public violence in the Mangaung Metro following the looting of foreign-owned tuck shops. Nopali had this to say.
As parent, it's very painful. It's very painful because now we are wondering what's going to happen to our kids. Okay, we did hear it from province to province, as you said. We never thought it will come in our community or mhlawumbe in our province, but it happened. It's very scary, it's very sad, it's very painful, all in all, because at the end of the day, you wonder what is going to happen.
Johannesburg's water says it'll be disconnecting illegal water connections next week. Some northern parts of the city have been without water since Monday due to a power trip at Rand Water's Polmeet pump station. Johannesburg Water's Mzaki Msweni says they'll begin the disconnections in 9 informal settlements, mostly in Lenasia, Ennerdale and Orange Farm.
The illegal connection is not only going to focus on informal settlements. I just need to make that clear. We've got businesses, we've got institutions, we've got estates which are in the list where they owe the city millions and millions of rands in terms of water consumption. And those will be some of those that we will be disconnecting. We are doing something about this situation.
The ANC Secretary-General Fikile Mbalula says leaders in the city of Tshwane must work hard to improve the lives of the people. The city is currently under an ANC-led coalition following the removal of the DA mayor in September. Mbalula was speaking outside Tshwane House where he led a community march in Pretoria.
We are saying to our comrades, don't forget why you are here. We are here because for the past 8 years, the people in Landreshville, Social Group, Mamidodi, Hammanskraal have been suffering under the DA-led coalition.
The Lubombo border post has been partially reopened after the SA Border Management Authority engaged in talks with their Mozambican counterparts to have the border open for Mozambicans who want to travel home. It remains closed for goods. Border operations were suspended due to unrest in Mozambique, linked to elections in that country last month. The border authorities' Mike Masiapato.
We had a very long conversation with the leadership of customs as well as the leadership of immigration that came from Maputo to here, and we had to then engage about the issue that the port needs to be reopened, particularly because the indications are that the protests have fairly subsided on the Mozambican side. So on that basis, they then agreed that they are going to start preparations, particularly in terms of making sure that the environment it is fairly cleared for the purposes of reactivating the work, as it were. So on that basis, we then agreed that around 3 o'clock we will then reopen the port.
The top story: if government goes ahead with the implementation of the newly signed Bella Act, the piece of legislation is set to be challenged in court. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Khus.
In sports this hour, Proteas win the toss and elect to bowl first against India, and Rassie Erasmus mixes up the team and chooses radical bench. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the Tshwane bus service operation remain interrupted due to industrial action. Commuters are requested to make alternative travel arrangements. Some Rea Vaya bus feeder services throughout the Soweto remain disrupted, so please do check before travel. The N1 northbound in Selling Hill has a stationary vehicle reported before Buccleuch interchange, and the N1 northbound in Midrand has a crash reported before Olifantsfontein Road. In KZN, the N3 westbound has a stationary truck reported after Key Ridge. The N2 northbound has a crash reported before Mgeni Road, and the N3 eastbound is queuing towards Spaghetti Junction. In Cape Town, the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound is queuing towards Hospital Bend. The M3 inbound is queuing towards Hospital Bend. The N1 outbound has a lost load reported before Coburg interchange, causing some delays, and the N2 outbound has a stationary vehicle reported at Browning Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Rise and shine. Plan to keep rising and shining with victory to secure a decent top-half spot. But the Rockets are not impressed with their slow start of the season. They believe this is the time to collect 3 points. Limpopo battles it out with Mpumalanga. This is the Betway Premiership. Catch Mzansi's beautiful game, Polokwane City FC versus TS Galaxy FC on Saturday, 9 November at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC1 and SABC radio stations. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Okay, so every Friday we change tack completely in the last hour of the show. We speak to a guest. We call it the fireside chat on a Friday. We get the person in and we just chill and we talk about a whole lot of things. Many of it very, very unscripted. We don't know where we're going to go. Of course, there's overlaps between what they do and some of the more current issues, and we'll see how we can navigate all of that. So by coincidence, considering we've been talking about many things on Eskom today, and Eskom versus City Power, if I can call it that, my guest is the chairperson of Eskom. That's Mteto Niati. Good of you to connect, and wonderful to have you as my fireside chat guest, Mteto.
Hey, Ashraf, thank you so much for having me, and I'm looking forward to the conversation.
It's about time.
Let's take it to wherever it needs to go.
Well, absolutely. So let me start with this first up.
Yeah.
When I was overseas, and I mentioned to you I was at this one young conference in Canada, and therefore there was the launch of the book, The One Big Thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Hosted by, it's obviously Bruce Whitfield's book, right? And he set you up as the first guest at the launch. Of course, I couldn't come because I was gone.
Yeah.
I'm one of the contributors, right? Now, did you contribute as well? Because I was looking at your names. I promise you.
I promised to contribute.
Oh.
Right? So because he did an interview with me, you remember when that last week that he was going to be leaving. So I contributed during that week. He then, of course, reached out to me and said, "Oh, can we then write something?" I said, "Okay, I'm sure I'm going to. I will do it." I just did not find the time, make the time to do that. So he then said to me after the book was out, he said, "Okay, as a punishment,
you need to come in.
You need to come in and do this." So that's what I.
What a lovely story. So I have to tell you, even today, I said, because I haven't read the whole book, I haven't had enough time.
Yeah.
So I said, let me see what you said.
Yeah.
Because I know you were at the launch, right?
Yeah.
And I looked at it 3 times and I can't find it. And I said, it can't be a mistake. And
no,
I paged through
I had to say my one thing there.
So
that was the trick. Right. Yeah.
So let me take advantage of you. The brief from the book of The One Big Thing or the one thing, if you were the president for the day and you had 1 hour to execute on one important thing that will change the face of South Africa, what would you do? That was the brief to many of us, and I'm very fortunate to be the contributor in print. So mine is there, right? What did you say?
So what I said, look, I come from the technology space. It's an area that I'm passionate about. And I also think that technology is an enabler of almost all of the industries. You can be in the IT space, or can be in agriculture. but you have technology. If you're using technology, it can enable and help you to grow that space. In our country, we've got such a huge shortage of digital skills. And this is going to be a limiting factor to our growth, because you're also using technology to make your companies or industries to be globally competitive.
Yeah.
So the one thing that I would do, which would address the youth unemployment and also the growth of all of the sectors, is to invest in building those digital skills. We've got so many young people that are sitting idle. Many of them have gone to university. And what I know, some of the work that we have done, for example, when I was at Microsoft, you have a 6 to 12 month intervention engaging and helping these unemployed graduates. You give them these skills. They are able to be productive. So really what you need is that one maybe to 18 months intervention.
So you're saying, I mean, you know what, it's interesting when we talk about national service, right? You're saying it's almost like digital skills a 1-year national service.
Yes.
That every young person on a certain age group must complete.
You must just go through that. But what you also need it's one thing to train people theoretically. You need to also do what is called work integrated learning. That learning must be connected to some practical work. So you need companies to sign up, say, okay, fine, I'm taking these 100 graduates, I'm going to be training them, but they need to be coached, they need to be given opportunity and to be trained in your space as a bank or as an insurance company.
So how practical is that? I mean, that is your wish list, which you've already pronounced publicly.
It is practical. It is practical in the sense that we are doing that now. We are doing.
So is you Eskom or is you who?
No, not as Eskom. In my other hat that I'm wearing, I'm a chairman of a group called Collective X. You can see it's a collective. This is something that needs to be done not just by one group. It be companies, it needs to be training providers, it needs to be government, all of us coming together. And we've got this Collective X targeting this very important.
You're going to implement this already?
We are already implementing. We're in the execution.
Yeah, that's absolutely great. Because, I mean, do you agree on, and I'll move on, that obviously different people, and I think Bruce Whittle will appreciate our conversation now, but different people will appreciate the fact that there are more than one big thing. That means there's about 100 one big thing. Yes. So how do we decide what's the most urgent and what's less urgent?
Look, I think what it should be more like, say, okay, I am sitting, let's say, in the Department of Trade and Industry. Out of that department, then you look out of those one thing, what are the top ones that talk to my department? For example, in agriculture, in the different industry, energy and electricity. So what are those? Then you prioritize by that instead of doing one thing for the country, but multiply. Because you want to make sure that you've got an impact quickly, and that impact must touch as many people as possible. Have one champion, and that champion could be aligned to a specific department of government, and then have that department choosing that one thing to do.
Well, absolutely. Yeah. So I'll come to some of the things that you are championing, including Eskom, later on. But just so that people don't know, I haven't done like a formal intro with you. Maybe just give me a 4-liner. I mean, I know you've done amazing things, but just run through some of the biggest organizations you've worked with, because you have.
Yeah. So I started my career in Afrox, a gas company, and they sponsored me at university. So I ended up doing mechanical engineering. So I worked for them for 7 years, in Afrox. Moved to a company called Nampec and spent a lot of time there doing manufacturing consulting work, helping that company to be globally competitive. It was during the time of the international sanctions. When we opened up South Africa, you find that our products that we were making in Nampec were not globally competitive. So we needed to make sure that we drive down the cost and make sure that we can compete with, so that's the work that I did there. Moved on to IBM for 12 years with the IBM company, both here in South Africa and in Europe and in the US. worked for Microsoft, worked for 6 years at Microsoft, worked for MTN, became the MTN CEO of South Africa, and also worked for Altron. So those are the companies that I've worked for over a long period.
And many of them you've been, not just at the startup. You've been an absolute leader in those companies.
I was a leader IBM, leader of their global services business, also the leader of the small and medium-sized business in Europe, Middle East and Africa. Came back in South Africa, led Microsoft here in Africa, and I also led Microsoft MTN South Africa.
And I'll tell you what, if we don't get enough of time to run through his career, I'm talking about Mteto Nyathi, I would strongly suggest you read his book. I see it's up for a 7th reprint. Have I got it right?
It's the 8th now.
8th, oh my. So it's called Betting on a Darkie. And that's exactly what it is. Darkie, right?
Like a black person.
It'll give you that complete story of your life from the Eastern Cape to where you are now. And I can tell you now, having read the book, of course, that's when we first met a long time ago, it is a remarkable book because everything about you speaks of champion, and you would know long enough, if you know me, that I talk about building a champion nation and a champion South Africa. And when you took on the Eskom position, without even knowing, and we all know the problems Eskom has had, the first thing I told myself, like, you know what? If anything, they've got a champion at the helm now.
I'm glad that at least you had that confidence in me.
I absolutely
because
did.
Many people actually were calling and say, what a big mistake that you're making. We've got such a great career. You're going to be messing it up at the end, But that's actually a
why did you take it then?
That's actually a bad thing for people to say, because you need your best people tackling some of the hardest problems. Isn't that what you want?
Absolutely.
Even if they fail, at least they would have tried, right? So to have this attitude of, no, I'm worried about I may end up having my reputation. No, as long as you have done the right thing, gave it your best shot, and moved the needle quite a bit, that's what we all want.
So you want to throw that same quote back to you. You need your best people to tackle the hardest problems, and that would be you, right? In that case, right?
Yeah.
You never felt, when others were saying, career suicide, this is crazy, it will damage your legacy. Did that not come into your thinking at all?
No, I mean, it came when I was thinking whether should I be doing this or not. It was part of the decision-making process, and then I came to the conclusion that I should do it. First of all, we always complain, Ashraf. We complain out there, and we need to find people that can do things, that can help improve things. Then I looked at this problem, the problem that we're having in Eskom, and I look at my experience. Does my experience talk to the challenges there? Then I also looked at the other dimension. I look at the problems of Eskom. Are they things that are within the control of Eskom, or most of them are outside of the control of Eskom? I realize most of the problems of Eskom are actually linked to the problems within Eskom, which means they can be fixed. Had I come to the conclusion that most of the problems were actually because of external factors, I would not have taken the job.
Okay, so that's the good news and the bad news. To say if it's internally can be fixed.
Yeah,
but
it
the
can
bad
be
news
fixed.
is like, how could it be that these internal problems have dominated Eskom and therefore affected delivery in our country, isn't it?
Yes. So that was my thinking process, Ashraf. And when I also looked at the people that were assembled by the late Pravin Gordhan, the members of the board there, I found that I'll be part of this great group of people that will be bringing their wisdom, their understanding, their experiences to try and solve this problem. So it gave me a lot of comfort.
So now, how long have you been in that position as the chair?
As the chair, just over a year, but as a member of the board, 2 years.
Okay. What have you learned?
What have I learned is that, first and foremost, is that you just don't take whatever people are saying. You know, you need to there's a trust but verify, and for me, had we gone there and just listened to what management was saying, would have gone on the wrong way completely. You know, the fact that this board decided to approach things differently, get to the ground and try and understand from the people
as a board,
you know,
compared to the past, which was what?
Yeah.
Trust and then let the existing people run without verifying. But yours was verified.
Yeah, trust but verify. Yes, okay, I'm hearing you, but can I go and find out from the ground? You know, is this really true? You know, and you come to the conclusion that, oh, by the way, it looks like we're on the wrong course here. You know, yeah.
I want to ask you some of the key decisions that you've taken, or as a board at Eskom, and your leadership thoughts coming through and playing out in Eskom. We'll do that right after this.
India plan to cause an upset in Mzansi's own backyard. However, the Proteas are all about hitting the ground running at St. George's Oval to demonstrate what the Protea fire looks like. What a summer without cricket. Catch the spectacular second T20 international match between South Africa and India on Sunday 10 November at 3:30 p.m. live on SABC3 and 4 p.m. on Radio 2000. With reports on various SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Fireside Chats, and my guest today is Mteto Niati. He's the current chairperson of Eskom, and as you made the point, Collective X, right?
Yeah.
Are you the chair of that organization too?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
No, it's an organization formed by, it's like pulling the key stakeholders that can deliver on competent people that can come out with digital skills. So we've brought in training providers, for example. These are people who have got companies that train others around the technology
Excellent.
space.
Yeah.
We've also got people that look at the quality standards. SAFIA, there's some quality standards around training. Then there are corporates who are right now, they want to have people employing people in the digital space. They're always complaining that they cannot find people that are trained. So we're signing them up. So we're signing all of this, and then also funders. You need to fund all of these things. So we've got funders that are bringing the money, and then the setup that we do is that you have corporates that it becomes a joint funding. The corporate pay maybe 70%, we fund the other 70%.
Okay, fabulous.
Yeah.
I tell you what, I mean, we could have a conversation about that alone, and I gather many people may be Googling Collective X as we talk. So it's an X at the end of the word collective,
X,
right?
Yeah.
They'll certainly do that, I'm sure.
We're solving for X.
Understandably. So in solving for X, right? Yeah, what have you solved? And just to remind the audience here, I'm not going to go into the day-to-day running of Eskom because that's not the plan here today, just so that you know that, okay? But what have you solved for X as in Eskom?
So the key thing, what we when we approach that, saying we need to understand whether the problem statement is the correct one, you know? Because if you define the problem accurately, that's half the problem solved.
Yeah.
Then you can apply the resources to solving that problem. But if your definition of the problem is wrong, then you are wasting the resources. And we came to the conclusion that the problem of Eskom is not about the age of the fleet. The age of the fleet is not a problem.
Which was claimed, right?
Yeah. They then said, we've got this. Everybody in the media, everybody's writing this aging fleet of Eskom. We know. You know, some of us, I drive a car, it's a 9-year-old car. It continues to serve me. I think it's going to be serving me another 10 years because I take care of it, right? So the problem is not really the age, it's how you have treated this thing and are you maintaining it. So we came to the conclusion it's the reliability. That X is the reliability of the fleet. Then the question is, why is this not reliable? We're not maintaining it. Oh, okay, but why are you not maintaining? We don't have the resources to maintain it. And when we do maintain, we send it to people who do not have the skills, you know.
So they're not fixed up, yeah.
So and it comes back, most of the time it comes back in a worse position than, okay. So you are starting to get to the root of the problem now, you know. So you need to secure some funding. You need to make sure that you've got a direct relationship with the manufacturers of this equipment. If you are driving a Toyota, why would you take your car to a backyard mechanic who is really clueless about maintaining this car? Why don't you take it to a garage, a Toyota garage? So that's the thinking. You have to have a direct relationship.
Were Eskom taking their maintenance to the backyard mechanics?
Yes, an equivalent of that, to companies that really did not have the necessary skills to do.
So at the time, I think, about a month or two before elections, somehow, by some miracle, load shedding stopped. And yes, it was not a miracle. Well, I'm saying this, it was going to resume on the 30th of May, and then maybe the 1st of June, and then maybe the 2nd of June, and so it continues. What's happened there? What is that? What has not happened around load shedding reflect the change of management and board leadership?
So I mean, a board can have an influence, but the most important thing is not the board. It's the people that are running the company, starting from the CEO all the way down to the power station managers. That's the kind of leadership that you need. You need leadership that will be able to execute, you know. So that approach of having a bottom-up approach of solving this problem, getting the buy-in from the people that are directly affected. So, for example, this board had a workshop with power station general managers who came up with solutions. They knew what needs to be done, right? So our job was to really empower them, to support them, to give them the resources to do what they know how to do.
I mean, I recollect Michael Jordan, the former CEO of FNB, at that stage doing something similar where they paid people R1 million bonus if they came up with bright ideas outside of their salaries. And it made so much sense because your best consultants are the people actually working within the company.
They are the guys that are the closest to the problems. Those are the people that you need to listen to, you know. So we listened to this. They came up with a plan. We interrogated this plan. Most of the people sitting on this board, they are engineers. Some of them are CAs. Some of them are consultants in the people-related space. So they were interrogating, challenging management. And we came up with this plan. Management created, but interrogated, checked, and double-checked by the board, signed off in March last year.
Okay.
It's a 2-year plan. It's the execution, the implementation of that plan that has taken us to be where we are now, which is really the big problem that we have in our country. You know, there's no shortage of plans. The issue is usually, do you go out and do what you say you're going to do?
Which brings me to this last point before we get to the news, right? What for you in terms of your skills? What's your greatest asset in terms of your skill set?
I think it's that thing of creating an environment where people feel like, first of all, they are comfortable to open up, you know, because that's another big thing, you know. You when people are not sharing, uncomfortable, or decide they are comfortable, and the ability to listen, that listening part is actually so important because you are communicating something when you are listening. First of all, you say, I can see you.
I see you, yeah.
I value you, you know, and you exist, you know, I respect you. That's the listening part. But most important, I'm an engineer, problem solving. You know, yes, I can hear all of that. But if it is BS, what you are talking about, I'm going to be able to pick up that this is BS. So that ability to go to the root of the problem, because you may be working on symptoms, and they will take you nowhere. You try to fix symptoms. You need to to fix the root of the problem.
And there your engineering skills.
That's where it comes.
Allows you to
go directly to that.
Fascinating. More to come from Mteto Niati. Now, I'll tell you what, maybe time for 3 calls or WhatsApps maximum. That's all we have. So if you're keen on doing that, you can do it right away. 086 000 2032. WhatsApp, text, or voice notes 0614 104 107. We chat to Eskom Chair Mteto Niati, and I make the point, Chair of the Collective Acts. But he's done so much more in his life, and that's what we dwelling on now as we speak on this Friday Fireside Chat. Let's get the news headlines. Here's Greg House.
In the headlines at this half hour, COSATU's joined in supporting the implementation of the Bella Act. The ANC Secretary General says government must move with speed and decisive action regarding the Spaza shop crisis. And the Border Management Authority says its Mozambican counterparts are currently finalising their preparations for the processing of cargo at the border. There's a full update at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg is slow moving. That's towards Krong Interchange. The N12 R24 westbound in Bedfordview is queuing on both routes towards Kilulis Interchange. The N12 westbound in Eldorado Park has delays towards the Klipspruit Valley Road exit, and the N1 northbound in Midrand has a crash reported before Olifantsfontein Road. In KZN, the N3 westbound has a stationary truck reported. That's after Key Ridge. The N3 eastbound is queuing towards Spaghetti Junction. The M4 southbound is queuing at Sandile 20 Road. The N2 southbound queuing towards Spaghetti Junction. And the R102 is slow moving. That's through Mount Moriah. In Cape Town, the M2 outbound, slow moving towards Spine Road. The M7 Jakes Huddle Drive southbound is queuing towards the R300 highway. The N1 outbound is slow moving, that's towards Okavango Road. And on the R60 in Worcester, a fallen tree reported at Overhicks Road. That's led to the roadway being blocked. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Duming Kapele.
All right, Chumi, go ahead. Yep. Let's talk sport.
Alrighty, we start things off with cricket. Obviously, that is in action. The Proteas won the toss and they elected to bowl first against India in Durban. Andile Similani in to make his debut, and Reza Hendricks out with a sickness. Now, the last time I checked, the score was sitting on 73-1. That is India, and it's in the 7th over. Meanwhile, in rugby, Springbok loose forward Kwagga Smith will earn his 50th Test cap on Sunday when the Springboks line up against Scotland at Murrayfield in their opening Castle-Lager outgoing tour clash. Locks Franco Mostert and Achia Sneeman returned to the green and gold after time on the sidelines due to an injury in a strong team named by national coach Rassie Erasmus. Eben Etzebeth will captain with Siya Kolisi starting on the bench, and Smith will start at number 8 as he celebrates the significant career milestone. Erasmus opted for a split of 7 forwards and 1 back on the replacements bench and made 11 changes to the starting team that defeated Argentina. In football, Richards Bay and Magezi FC will go head-to-head in tomorrow's Carling knockout semi-final match at the Kingswell Dini Stadium in Durban. Richards Bay will be without Langelihle Mhlongo, who is suspended, while have no suspension concerns when it comes to the Magezi side. However, Magezi star Gift Mutuba is an injury doubt, as the experienced forward has been nursing a hamstring injury. Meanwhile, Mamelodi Sundowns coach Manqoba Mngqithi says Marumo Gallants pose a huge threat in the Carling knockout semi-final in Bloemfontein on Sunday. The Downs mentor says that although their congested schedule meant very little time on the training ground, Gallants are an open book. Then La Liga leaders Barcelona have been in sensational goal-scoring form this season and visit Real Sociedad on Sunday in La Liga high on confidence. The Catalans have netted 55 times in 16 matches across all competitions and has scored 3 times or more in each of their last 7 outings, and will definitely be looking to continue with that form. In golf, the Sunshine Ladies Tour will celebrate its 12th season with another strong schedule of local and international tournaments, increased prize money, and a reward for the champions to chase R1 million. In announcing its 2025 schedule, the Sunshine Ladies Tour unveiled a season of 8 tournaments to be played from February to April, and the season will once again be anchored by the 2 co-sectioned events with the Ladies European Tour, the Joburg Ladies Open at Modderfontein Golf Club, and the Investec South African Women's Open at Erenvale Golf Estate. On that note, it's a wrap from my side.
Rise and shine. Plan to keep rising and shining with victory to secure a decent top-half spot. But the Rockets are not impressed with their slow start of the season. They believe this is the time to collect 3 points. Limpopo battles it out with Mpumalanga. This is the Betway Premiership. Catch Mzansi's beautiful game, Polokwane City FC versus TS Galaxy FC on Saturday, 9 November at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC1 and SABC radio stations. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Imagine the endless possibilities with Powerball and Powerball Plus at 131 million rand in jackpots this Friday. You heard right. Play Powerball for an estimated 46 million rand jackpot and Powerball Plus for the life-changing 85 million rand guaranteed jackpot today. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120*7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old and play responsibly. E2 is a proud operator of the National Lottery.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, we don't have a full-on markets update from 6 to 7, this being a Friday, but we certainly have an update on the markets. Anyway, Jimmy, go ahead. Hi.
Good evening, Ashraf. Good evening to the listeners. Markets clearly very, very confused, ending out the week in a negative territory, despite the fact that we had a positive day yesterday. If we look at some Asian markets, they would have had the first day of trade today. The ASX in Sydney was in the green, the Nikkei in Tokyo was in the green, but Hang Seng and the Chinese Shanghai Composite were both in the red, so Chinese markets all in the red there. European markets all in the red. US markets at the moment, the S&P 500 is up 0.25%, but the Nasdaq is down about 0.1%. Our own markets had a torrid day. All the gains that we saw yesterday were reversed, with resources losing 2.8% today, financials down 0.2%, and industrials down 0.5%. As a result, the all-share was down 1%, the top 40 was down 1.1%. The rand against the dollar giving back some gains there, back at 17 rand 56 against the British pound, 22 rand 72, and against the euro, 18 rand 87, almost a 4% there against all of those major currencies. One Australian dollar will cost you 11 rand and 59 cents. Anyone that's looking at that. If you're looking at Bitcoin, it made all-time highs yet again, notching above $75,000. We're at 76,580 at the moment. The platinum and palladium pricing both below $1,000 an ounce there. That's likely what drove the resource counters to be weaker today as well. We're going to keep an eye on that going into next week as well. The gold price, $2,690 an ounce, about 0.33% off. The Brent crude price holding steady at $74.31 a barrel. Looks as though markets are still trying to Donald Trump a victory in the U.S. We got those interest rate conversations and rate cuts from the U.S. as expected, so markets didn't really see any surprises from that perspective. Going into the rest of the year, we're going to see how traders and investors look to unwind their positions potentially ahead of next year. We know that it's going to be a while before Donald Trump officially takes office and makes any significant changes in the U.S., but markets already starting to price in a bit of a bearish sentiment around commodities pricing, and we're seeing that filter through as well. We'll keep an eye on these going into next week. Not a very happy way to end out the weekend, but we will take it as it is.
Okay, perfect. You have a great weekend, and I'm sure we're going to connect on Monday. Thanks for that, Jimmy. Right, let's move on to other things. So here's a comment. Mr. Niati is the epitome of excellence. His journey and zeal has influenced me in believing in myself. Such a great leader. So that's wonderful, right? Okay, we'll get to a caller just now. There's a voice note I want to pick up on. Let me just see if I can find it. As we continue chatting. No, I just don't seem to have disappeared. Let me try and sort it out from Phineas' side, if he can sort it out. If Phineas can play that, it'll be great.
Hi, Ashraf. Thanks for having a legend like Mteto Nyati on the show. Really inspiring. I am one of those ESCOM workers. I won't necessarily say my name, but we would like to really appreciate Mteto Nyati for restoring our dignity. You know, a lot of people don't realize how mentally exhausting it has been to listen to people on the radio calling ESCOM employees all sorts of names, and we're speaking about professionals here. And at some point, people would even start doubting themselves. So thanks for restoring the dignity of the workers and also putting the country first.
Oh, that's a lovely message. We'll take maybe one or two more calls maximum if you can, or WhatsApp, one call, one WhatsApp, 086 000 2032. I mean, that's beautiful appreciation. Let's talk about your power. I mean, I've interviewed you before. We've met up. I've certainly appreciated the things that you do. Even so much so, our Champion South Africa project knows your daily anecdotes, your daily inspirations. We share a lot of it, right, under Champion Thinking. When people come up to you or call in and say, "You've touched us and you've changed our way of thinking and doing," how do you feel about it?
I feel good about it. You know. I think probably 15 years ago, I was in that space where trying to figure out why am I in this, you know, and why
a little bit lost.
Yeah, why was I born? Not lost, but trying to figure out my purpose in this life, you know, and I look back then. But anyway, to cut the long story short, I came up with the view that my purpose in this life is to awaken the giant in others, you know, awaken the giant in others.
Well, that's beautiful.
Many people, they believe that greatness is a preserve of the few, you know, Ashraf, Mandela.
Don't even include me in the same sentence, but go ahead.
Obama, you know, those are the people. But they don't know that actually we all have this greatness within ourselves, you know. And if I can, through an interaction with a colleague, with someone, and help that person to believe more in themselves, that to me is a big plus.
And that's your purpose.
And that's just what I truly. So, like now, you ask me to come here, right, for this interview. I try and connect. How does this request talk to my purpose? You know, will I be able to live my purpose through doing this work? Can I be able to touch as many people and help them to believe more in themselves? When I'm being asked to do a mentorship or a coaching role, or I'm going to be asked to go and have a talk there, all of these things, I give my time to it because it is aligned with who I am. You know, so when I hear a message like what I'm hearing, we have not changed the workers of ESCOM. It's still the same workers. You know, I always say that people will rise up to our level of expectations of them, right? If we expect them to be stupid, they will prove us right. If we expect them to be exceptional, they will show that they can be exceptional. It's all up to our belief of them, you know. So my belief, actually believe in people, in their potential, and most of the time, they never disappoint me.
Which means that in our country, which we can say is an underachieving country because it's got so much to offer.
We've got so much to offer.
And you know, I love us to be a champion nation, but we're not there, right? Which means a lot of focus has to be on getting to the hearts and souls and minds of people on a one-on-one basis.
We're always trying to do things for them, for people. I'm not saying that we shouldn't, but people, they are so resourceful. We need to wake them. The ESCOM was fixed by ESCOM people, not fixed by the board that came from somewhere else. It's been fixed. It is currently being fixed. We had great people there, but they have kind of forgotten who they are, how excellent that they are.
So, for example, I mean, if I have to bring in a sporting analogy, often, and I mean, Rassie Erasmus is a good example of that. I think the Boks lost about 65-0 to the All Blacks a year before the World Cup, and then he took over, and we actually won the World Cup in 2019. Then there are other football examples where people often talk to say, the new coach changed everything.
Yes.
I mean, that's it.
Yes, it's about that. It's about having a leadership that serve the people, that create the space so that people can be able to take risks, right? Instead of I make a mistake and then get chopped, my head is chopped. No, let's protect it. We see ourselves as the board, our responsibility as that one of protecting management. You know, there are many people who are trying to interfere, trying to do this, trying to do that. You know, our job is to make sure that we protect them. Our job is to support them, give them the resources so that they can shine. You know, that is what we are there for. And that's why when they make mistake, when they try this and try that and come up with innovation on solving some of these problems, we are able to do that because they understand it. They are close to the problems. They are the ones that have got the solutions. But they need to also know that when in the unlikely event that they make a mistake, their careers are not going to. It's not going to be the end of their career.
So I trust in people.
You build that trust.
So just one last thing on that. So practically, when you meet people at board level or on a one-on-one like this, when you say I want to get to people to awaken this giant that you talked about, right? So how do you engage them? And I'm talking of the actual how. Like you meet a person, you tell them what.
No, I mean, it's largely the people that I'm connected with. You know, many people have got limiting beliefs, you know. So I know I cannot do this, I cannot do that, you know. And it's in that engagement, trying to show them, but no, you can do this thing. You know, this is how you need to look at it. You know, don't look at it always from the negative side. Look at the positive. What's the gift out of this problem that you're seeing? You know, you are helping the person to look at things differently. And as they expand their way of looking at things, they themselves start to find out that they can approach things differently. You know, so that is really for me, that is how we challenge people. You throw things back at them and say, okay, you know, coming to you, somebody's reporting to you, is asking for a solution. No. Come to me with, at least show me that you have thought.
The problem, find the solution.
Show me that you have thought about the solution. Then I will work with whatever solution you come up with, but at least come up with something. Don't ask me to be coming up with.
Well, there you are. I wish we
Stretching
did
the
more
people.
of that. Just a quick one in terms of solutions. What is your thought on the state of South Africa? And it's not good. I would think so, although there's much about it that I love. And what is the solution to what you think is the biggest problem? So what is the biggest problem and what's the solution to the biggest problem?
Yeah, when you look at municipalities, you look at the hospitals, you look at public schools, you look at all of these things. Most of this stuff is on a decline. And that's a problem. You know, that is a real problem. But you will find that there is this school in some rural area somewhere, and it's consistently without electricity, without an internet, but they are consistently producing these kids that are doing exceptionally well. And it's always the 100% pass rate. You double click and say, why is this happening in that school? You'll find that there's one thing. It is the principal. It starts with the leader. So leadership matters. This whole problem that we see around education, if you reduce it to, can we make sure that each and every school has got a competent and the right kind of a principal?
So the school head,
Yeah, the school head. It will change everything. The same thing with each and every hospital. Can we make sure that each hospital has got a competent CEO that is leading that hospital?
Okay, so the reality is we know that's not the case. We know we don't have that. It's true, right?
We don't have.
How do we change that considering a lot of appointments are very politically related? I mean, we know that. So how do we change that?
No, we need to start to understand, because we are where we are now. We are worried about, we're not going to having water in Johannesburg. We're not going to have this. We're not going to have that. As we are facing this thing, we need to come up with solutions. It starts with putting the right people in those roles. It's the same thing with the board of Eskom. They assembled people whose experience talk to the problems of Eskom. So it's not a miracle.
So putting the right people.
Yeah.
Is the GNU the right people?
Well, let me say it. The setup of the GNU, its structure, when I look at it, I mean, I'm just going to go back to my experience as a CEO. Why we have always been, as a team, successful in the jobs that one is doing. One of the key ingredients of what I do is to make sure that I've got diversity. That diversity is not just about diversity in terms of race. It's diversity in terms of gender, diversity in terms of the age that I have as part of my team, diversity in terms of to have only people who come from South Africa, do I have people from different parts of the world who are part of this team. So the point I'm making here that diverse teams almost always outperform teams that are not diverse.
Okay, just pause on that because I want to ask you that last thing on the GNU, whether do we see the diversity and does that make a difference or not? Continuing to chat with the fireside chat with Mteto Niati, and hope you're enjoying all of this. We'll go up till 6 o'clock.
South Africa and India will produce hot performances as they both want to triumph during their third T20 contest. The visitors want victory to ensure a joyful tour, but hosts Mzansi refuse to fold their arms. What a summer without cricket! Catch the heated third T20 international action between South Africa and India on Wednesday, 13 November at 4:30 p.m. live on SABC3 and 4 p.m. on Radio 2000. With reports on various SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, so we've got about 8 minutes to go, and as you know, in leadership, time is always a problem, and it's how you manage the time. So your quick thoughts, I heard your point about diversity. So and the diversity of the GNU compared to what it was before is before we had one party.
Yes.
I'm not talking color,
Yes,
we had one party.
That is the diversity.
Now we have the multi-party diversity.
That is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people bringing different perspectives. We have got a problem of South Africa. How do we drive inclusive growth in South Africa? That's the problem statement. We're trying to find a solution to that problem. In answering that problem, we can come up from one angle. You need multiplicity of angles, different lenses looking at this same problem. And the solution that you come up with from different lenses, that solution always is better than a solution coming from one lens. So my point here is that the GNU set up because of the different perspectives. Other people think that's actually a weakness of the GNU. It's actually a strength.
Even when they argue with each other.
Yes, that's the value. That's the reason. If you always have people who are agreeing with you around here, that's why you end up in the wrong place. You have to have that tension. That's the tension. Let's convince one another. Once you then make a decision, it becomes a decision that integrates all of the different perspectives, and that solution almost always is better than a solution from one angle.
Do you, in your long journey, and I want really people to read your book, Batting on a Darkie, I really want them to do that. But is there one story you always love sharing?
Is there one story I love sharing? I think for me, when I look at the time when I was the first, given the role of becoming a first manager, that was in IBM, one of the things that I was very, very clear I wanted to do, and I wanted to demonstrate to everybody, because at that time, transformation was still not an issue, was a big issue. So I wanted to demonstrate that if I can put together this group, a team of all blacks, basically, I want to show everybody that we can do it.
Yeah.
And if you look around me, my team was just all darkies, and I can tell you some of the challenges, not of competence, but just because the dynamics of just having one group. And then I realized then that's when I woke up to this thing of diversity. You need to have different perspectives. You need to have, and ever since that time, I've realized that even one group even performs even better because of the different competition. Each one of these
So that's
groups,
a good leadership lesson you've learned.
Yes,
forever.
I learned the value of diversity.
Fascinating. Okay, I think there's another voice note we can play.
Innovation.
Oh, I am so enjoying this talk. Thank you so much, Ashraf, and your guest. I am so excited. I'm actually crying. I love people like this, and I want people like this to run the country. And please become a president. Please become our president. Please, please, please.
I won't even ask you if you want to become the president, but anyway, wonderful, wonderful message. I mean, that's beautiful. Absolutely right. Well, I won't ask you that. You have other things to be concerned about. But I want to ask you this, right? Can you give a shout out to a young South African, someone that we don't readily know of, like? But I want you to actually, give a shout out so we brand, like, who is this person?
Yeah, look, one of the challenges that we have in our country is that we are not doing much manufacturing in our country. We need to be, if we are going to be solving the problem of unemployment, we need to have more and more young people being entrepreneurs and coming up with ideas and seeing those ideas through. And one of those young people is 35-year-old young man called Theo Baloyi. He is the founder and also the CEO of Bathu Shoes.
Absolutely. No story.
This young man, is doing fantastic work. And when you look at the number of people that his company has employed, he just came up with a concept. Put this concept into execution, which is another problem that we have. We do not implement things, and learn as you go along. Changes things. Because you can never come up with a perfect answer the first time, and is learning. But where he is now, he is in a different space. He's able to compete with the best in the world. This is a young man from South Africa and doing exceptional work.
Bathu Baloyi, right?
Theo
Baloyi, sorry,
Baloyi.
from
Bathu Shoes.
Absolutely. And certainly I've known about him, and we need to connect with him on air one of the days. We've got 3 minutes to go. Who would you like to, book a seat at the table with? Somebody you've never had the privilege of doing that before.
Yeah. So I think this man is a man. He has been in the news lately, and our own president recently met him when he was in the U.S. He's a South African, but he's a South African that is based in the U.S. and it's Elon Musk. To me, when I look at the kind of work that he has done and he continues to do, and I'm forgetting about the politics. I just look at the impact that he has in terms of this world and what he is trying to achieve for this earth of ours. I would like to spend some time just to hear him think about.
I'm going to
some
tweet
of
it.
his
Hi, Elon
vision.
Musk, Mr. X. The chairperson of ESCOM wants to meet you. When can we arrange it? Let's see. You never know, right? Okay. We spoke about the book, the one thing that Bruce Whitfield wrote that you didn't get your contribution in it. I am there, thank goodness for that. Is there, and your book is a must read, Betting on a Darkie, but is there another book you'd recommend that we must read?
Yes, there is a book that influenced me many years ago, and it some of my current thinking was influenced by this book. It's called Born to Succeed.
Born to Succeed.
Born to Succeed,
written by
Colin Turner. Colin Turner.
Get the book, Born to Succeed. Well, you've certainly succeeded, but your time's up here, which maybe is an apt way to ask you the last thing. How would you like to be remembered? You've got 30 seconds.
I like to be remembered by impact, but that I've had in terms of our, the society that we're living in. I've got a purpose, and the people that I've touched, they must remember, how their lives became better just because they connected with me. That's how I'd like to recommend it.
Let's leave it at that. I did say so when you got the job as the chair of Eskom. Having not spoken to you for a while, I said, now, they've got themselves a champion. And, you know, champion people build champion institutions. That's the responsibility you have, Mteto Niati. Great chatting to you. We'll probably have another Eskom chat, a thought leader conversation some other time. So let me invite you on that sometime soon.
No problem.
We'd love to do that. Right, let's get the news now. It's 6 o'clock. Here's Greg Gross.
Thank you again, Ashraf. Enjoy your weekend ahead. In this news update, COSATU backs implementation of the Bella Act and cargo to be processed at the Lubombo border post. Good evening. COSATU's joined the support for the implementation of the Bella Act. The Labour Federation says it's satisfied that the Basic Education Minister will fast-track the